Welcome back, everyone. This is your host, the DN WhatIf, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into part 2 of What If Deku Could See the Past Holders of One for All Since Birth? A special shout out to the original creator, Erian, Mallu. Please make sure to show your support by checking out their work from the description. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. He is looking at the arena with disdain. He knows how this will go down. Katsuki, being the spoiled and immature brat that he is, he simply won't take this seriously. How could he if everybody else is below him? He is resentful. How can't he be? Katsuki used to be almost like a brother to Izuku. Sure, he was full of confidence, but what 4-year-old isn't? Back then he was still Izuku's best friend, his greatest companion, and they did everything together. Izuku trusted the other boys so much that he wanted to tell the truth about them, something that he hid even from his parents. They didn't even have time to try to convince Izuku because things fall apart when Katsuki got his meta ability. After that, everything began falling apart. She threw her jacket over and sent it floating, all on the fly. Uraraka wastes no time. She's charging again. She keeps charging relentlessly, but I can't watch this. Hey, that's not the way someone who wants to be a hero act. If you're so much stronger than her, just throw her out of the ring and finish it. Stop toying with the poor girl. He looks over at the direction where that voice spoke out. Sure enough, it was a 5th-class hero, someone mediocre enough that not even Izuku would bother to remember, and if Izuku doesn't remember a pro hero's name, then they are not worth your time. And it's no wonder why. If all he sees is a frail girl getting hurt, he either needs to get his eyes checked or change profession. How can anyone see this fight and think that she is frail? At every explosion Katsuki throws at her, she dodges, ducks, and roll away. She doesn't give up even after getting hit, choosing to push through her limits and is not giving her opponent time to react. Besides, it is clear that she has a plan. Man and woman are both capable of fighting, but because of misogyny and sexism, the latter must work so much harder to even be in equal footing. It was terrible back in his day, but you would think after a century later, things would be different, but no. The truth is that gender shouldn't make a damn difference out there. Villains and criminals won't treat a female coworker gentler than a man out of courtesy. They will still kill them or worse. And by the expressions of his brothers and sister in arms, they agree with his sentiments. Shimura is angrier for an obvious reason. When she was alive, she chooses to work in a male-dominated field and to be a mother at the same time. She had to deal with a lot of bullshit back in the day. He wonders how many times people didn't take her opinion serious just because she was a woman. How many times someone made rude remarks to question her abilities of being a mother and a working woman at the same, or question her husband's opinion in all of that instead of her own. These girls of Class 1A just got a ferocious auntie watching over them. All I see is Katsuki taking someone serious for the first time in his life. But of course, none of the heroes of the crowd knows that. So, they start getting even more vocal about their discontentment. A group in the crowd has started booing. But to be honest, I agree. An elbow. What's the big idea? Is the one who said he's toying with her a pro? Aizawa-sensei? How many years of active duty? If that's what you're taking away from this, then you can leave. No point in watching. Go home and start looking at job hunting sites. She's come this far and he knows her strength. His caution shows that he recognizes her as a worthy opponent. It's exactly because he wants to win so badly that there's no room for carelessness or holding back. I knew there was a reason why I like this man. He looked over to his husband. You wanted to kick his teeth out when we met him. Slanders? When have I ever said that? Anyone that's sensible clearly deserves to keep all of his teeth. Besides, little explosion boy over there probably didn't notice since he's so close. But the pros in the stands, those who are supposed to make a living out of saving people, well, they should be ashamed for not noticing. By charging in low every time, she kept Bakugo's attacks and attention focused on the ground. All to set up her weapons. With the constant attacks and vision obscuring smoke screens. He never realized. A goddamn meteor showers. He smiles. Damn toe beans, You are fucking hardcore. This kid got guts and is quick on her feet. She will do just fine out there. And then Katsuki blows up the whole thing with one attack. Show off. What an explosion. Uraraka's secret plan just went up in smoke. Really? He is going to the pun prison. Uraraka and Katsuki are about to continue their fight, but the girl stumbles and fall. She doesn't get back up. Katsuki moves on to the second round. Whoa, Kaken. Yeah, what do you want? Looking to die, scum? Looking forward to getting your ass kicked? No, I mean I'm up next, so I'm headed to the prep room. And, congrats on your win. Don't congratulate him. You suggested that, didn't you? That freaking self-sacrificing scheme of hers. You caused me a lot of trouble out there. Izuku stops in his tracks when he says that and turned to him. Uraraka came up with everything just to beat you. So, if it really was a lot of trouble for you, that was Uraraka messing with you. Translation, get fucked. Aiu. Slay. They stared at the fifth holder, with various stages of disgust and confusion. Banjo, what the actual fuck? What? I want to keep up with the lingo. You are at least 46 years older than Shimura's friend. Who is what? 70 right now? Please act your age. You guys are no fun. Guys, please, I want to cheer Uraraka-chan up. Oh sure kid. Go ahead. They walk into the prep room and are faced with a bruised/patched up toe beans. Considering how intense the fight seemed to be to the crowd point of view, Ichigo thought she would be more bandaged, but no. She is smiling. Guess I lost. I just got carried away at the end when I thought I could win. I'm good. Well, I'm healing bit by bit, so my stamina doesn't get drained. Just these little scrapes left. But darn it, Bakugo is just too strong. I couldn't put a scratch on him. Guess I just gotta try harder next time. Nana smiled at the kid, even knowing she couldn't see. Well, if you ask me, you made him work hard for that win. Very hard. Did you see that his hand was trembling right after he destroyed your meteor shower? Try to imagine the kind of recoil that explosion puts his body through. You were amazing, Uraraka. She blushed, and since Izuku is busy hyping his friend, he doesn't seem to realize what his spontaneous statement did to some holders. Both Morita and En were smiling like a couple of gossiping old ladies who just spotted the juiciest new scandal of the neighborhood. Daigoro was barely holding on, doing his very best to not burst into laughter in the middle of the room and ruin the mood. Oh my! How bold! They don't have time to tease their little Machi any longer because he is up next. He is marching to the arena, trying to avoid his own tears. God, was the corridor always this long? Izuku likes to think that he did somehow a good job at cheering Uraraka up, but now he is a little nervous about his upcoming battle. Todoroki is a formidable rival and… There you are. Who is the flaming tank with limbs? The flaming tank with limbs happens to be so very much more intimidating up close, but Izuku is getting better at having two conversations at the same time, so he manages to answer the past holder's questions and the second hero all at once. Endeavor. Why are you back here? The mood drooped to sub-zero temperature in a matter of seconds, despising the presence of a human furnace near them. Ah, it's the eugenicist. Shinomori-san. The life version of Fire Lord Ozai, but without the iconic voice of Mark Hamill or the magnificent cheekbones of Daniel Day Kim. Was that an insult? Saito-san shrugs. It works better with context. Anyway, Ichigo, do you want to have a go? The second holder looked at Endeavor with so much disdain that Izuku almost felt the need to apologize on the hero's behalf. But all he needed to stop that knee-jerk reaction was to remember Shoto's confession to him in the hallway. The brunette man cracks his neck before speaking. Not only we would help your wife get away with murder, but we would also make sure to ruin your legacy along the way. Also, heads up Izuku, he is still talking. Thanks. I saw what you did out there. That's an amazing quirk. Creating such a force with just a flick of your finger. In terms of power, it seems on par with All Might's quirk. Honestly, what is it with you and this obsession? I would tell you to go to therapy, but I fear for the therapist's well-being. What are you getting at? I must get going. En-san came closer to him and whisper. That's the third person that makes a connection between All Might and you, kiddo. I know you wanted to yell, Smash. Every time you punch something as a homage, but maybe don't do that? Yeah. My boy Shoto. He has a duty to surpass All Might. His match against you will prove a valuable test. So, don't hold back. Put up a good fight against him. They all stop in their tracks. Toshikun is trembling, but Nana's hand is acting as an anchor. Maybe all the heat on your freaking head has been melting your brain, but being the second hero of the nation doesn't give you a free pass to be an inconvenience. What do you take Izuku for? A free test trial or something? You know, if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't be talking about my own son in that manner. Quirk marriages are a taboo for a reason. No matter how much you try to justify it, it is breeding. And that opens a whole new can of worms that we don't have time to talk about right now. Let's go Izuku. You guys had your chance to talk crap about him, now it's my turn. I'm not All Might. Well, of course you're N-. That's obvious, isn't it? Just as obvious of how Shoto isn't you. He somehow stares down at the man, despising the clear height difference and power imbalance. He is his own person. Treat him like it. Izuku leaves the older man alone before he can speak back. Oh my god, what was I thinking? You weren't. But don't worry, kid. I'm not familiar enough with Todoroki-kun to be calling him by his first name. They look at him like he has lost his mind. What? Izuku, we just witnessed you treat the second hero of Japan like he was some petulant child. A man of 1.95 m that insists covering himself head to toe with flames purely for aesthetic proposes, but someone with power and connections that could screw you over in the future. And you are worried about how his son would react if he found it out you talked about him on a first-name basis? Yes. Even Toshikun agreed and asked what exactly his priorities were now. The combination of the sound of present mic presentation and the shouts of the audience was thundering enough. But as soon as he is in Shoto's line of sight, Izuku can feel the exact moment when the past holders look for Shinomori-san for answers. I think it is safe to say that he just wants to end this quickly and doesn't care if he hurts Izuku in the process. He knows that they are arguing, but he is too busy trying to remember all the advice from the past week that can help him now. Pay attention to your adversary. Every battle is a deception. There is no such thing as a cheap shot. Strike quickly and you'll end quickly too. He has been paying attention. Todoroki always attack with his ice in a brutal show of strength and speed, hoping to immobilize his opponent in a single move. So, the logical thing for Izuku to do is to corner back in the same speed and strength. And then, you have him, the weird mumbling kid that keeps breaking his bones every time he uses his own quirk. Except for the small detail that he has more than one quirk, and that he has been training how to use them for the past weeks. They both get ready. Ultimate Shield 2% plus Shock Absorption 3.5%. Start! And flicks his finger, destroying the glacier rushing to his direction. Whoa! He smashed through. Todoroki doesn't waste time and sent another attack his way. So Izuku destroy it again, ignoring the pain on his fingers and the blood drooping on the arena floor. Granted, if he wasn't using shock absorption, his fingers' bones would be broken by now, not fissured like he wanted. Being the son of an ER nurse, the second holder disagreed with that plan, saying that it was the most idiotic thing Izuku could ever come up. They continue their little dance for a while. Todoroki sends a wave of ice in Izuku's way, and he flicks his finger to destroy it. Still, how long can they both go on like this? At some point, something will have to change. So, you're trying to stretch the match out? Not happening. I'll end this quickly. Trying to close the gap between them, Todoroki creates a cliff of ice and leaps forward. And while Izuku managed to jump away, he wasn't fast enough to completely escape the ice crystals. Some of them trap him by his leg. He took aim once again and felt one for all run through his arm, exploding into his veins, bruising completely. Damn it, that was far more damage than I wanted. Now that's a lot stronger than your earlier attacks. Are you trying to tell me to stay back? Only defending and dodging? It's taking a toll on you. So are you. What? Look closely to him, Izuku. He does, trying to ignore the pain. What is that? Todoroki is shivering. That changed everything. Sorry for all this. I appreciate it though, Midoriya. Thanks to you, he doesn't look so happy. Something snaps inside him. Seriously? They are in the middle of a fight, but all he cares about is his stupid father reaction. What? I am not good enough to be taken seriously. You are not paying attention to your opponent, but to your damn abusive father. What kind of fuck-up temper tantrum is this? Oh boy. With both hands destroyed, you can't fight anymore. Let's end this. Todoroki continues his relentless assault. Could this next ice attack win it all? How dare they? How dare they act like this will end here? Here it comes. Marita, what are you blabbering about? Who says I'm done, you condescending prick? Who says I'm fucking done? He flicks his broken fingers, angry at everything. There it is. Jesus Christ. Izuku. With broken fingers. Why go that far? Superficial frostbite. Clear signs of hypothermia and exhaustion. What? There is a part of him that wants to refuse explaining the meaning behind those words because surely Todoroki knows about the limits of his own quirk and the consequences of ignoring for too long. Still, he is angry enough to keep talking. You're shivering. Quirks are still just physical abilities. You must have a limit to how much of that cold you can bear. But then you could always use your left side to thaw yourself out, right? To heat your own body, to balance the temperature. But no. You are too stubborn for that, too good for that. Izuku. He ignores the stern tone of Yoichi-san's voice. Everyone's giving it their all to win, to achieve their goals and to make it to the top. Are really that arrogant to think that you can win with half your power? Because haven't put a scratch on me. So here is what you are going to do. From now on, you are going to give me everything you got. Come at me. Or I am going to be the one to win this. In the background he could hear them shouting at each other. Are we ignoring that he already broke his fingers? The other shoe dropped. I repeat, the other shoe fucking dropped. Marita, shut your mouth before I break your jaw. What are you planning? Everything I've got? Did my bastard of a father pay you off or something? You're pissing me off. He laughs. It's a bitter laugh, and it leaves a bad taste in his mouth. Please. A guy like him can't buy me. Banjo-san wipes a fake tear away. Attaboy. Now wreck him. Todoroki seems surprised, even blushes for a second. But he still runs toward him, anger clear in his face. Izuku does the same and dashes forward, paying attention to danger sense on his head. By his side, Hikage-san is running alongside, advising him. As soon he is not touching the ground. Not yet, not yet. No. He focuses one for all into his fist and punch Todoroki in the stomach, launching across the arena. Ichigo-san put his hand on Izuku's shoulder. Good. He is going to be angry and mildly in pain now. Most likely than not, he will be launching larger attacks at you, but the chances of precision will be lower compared than before. All you need to do now is keep dodging. What a hit. Things are really heating up. Pun. Prison. Also, it's the freaking opposite. We are freezing here. So now you're on the offensive? If your opponent is of unstable temper, seek to irritate and never fall for enemies' taunts. It's not just you that's slowing down. Your ice is weaker too. It works like a charm. Todoroki blushes even harder and screams louder than before. The other boy tries to attack him again but loses mobility for some reason before attacking. Whatever happens, Izuku is not about to waste such a good opening. Considering that both of his hands were broken at the moment, he put his thumb in his mouth and bites it with the intention to hold his own hand in place so he could flex it again and attack. Why are you going this far? Because, unlike a certain someone, he takes this fight seriously. Just trying to meet expectations. But your experiences and your determination, I can't even begin to imagine what all that's like. If you become number one without giving it your all, then I don't really think you're serious about denying him everything. Once again, Yoichi-san stares at him. Izuku. That is why I have to win. I have to surpass you. They are both in pain and breathless by now. Shut up, I'll show my father. Izuku speaks what he wanted to say to Shoto after their talk in the hallway. It's yours. Your power, not his. Something wonderful happens afterwards. There is fire. Warm, wonderful fire. Holy F dash. Teenagers scare the living shit out of me. Holy shit. What's this? His mind is quiet. Danger sense is quiet, and that leaves Izuku looking on at the scene with awe, a happy feeling blooming inside his chest. I thought you wanted to win? Damn it, so why are you trying to inspire me? Which one of us isn't taking this seriously now? But I wanna be a hero too. Well, that's because he is altruistic at heart, it usually comes to bite him in the butt. Incredible. Wow, he is not even listening to us. What are you smiling about? With those wounds and in this situation? You must be crazy. It's not my problem what happens to you now. That is fine by him. More than fine. And with peace on his mind, he leaps toward and wakes up in the infirmary. His right arm is shattered. This won't be easy to set back to normal. First, I will have to remove the bone splinters from his joints. Healing comes after. This boy admires you so much he's willing to destroy himself. You lit that fire. You moved him to this. I don't like it. Not one bit. You're overdoing it. You and this boy. So, you'd better not praise him for it. He looks in the direction where both All Might and the past holders are. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. Maybe if I just shut up. But I had to say what I did to Todoroki. You were trying to bring it out of him. It wasn't a question. How could it be, if Izuku's intentions were so obvious? Right, Todoroki? It was just too sad. I thought maybe I should just mind my own business, but I had to, because at that point, I couldn't take it anymore. It was so frustrating. I forgot why I was there. I lost myself. I'm sorry. An unfortunate outcome, indeed. And calling you a fool won't change what happened. However, giving help that's not asked for is part of what makes a true hero. He can feel the anesthesia making effect, his eyelids beginning to feel too heavy. Still, Noita-san talked to him. Izuku, be honest. Besides wanting to help your classmate, besides wanting to win or making All Might proud, why did you do it? But I need to go beyond. Oh yes. Plus ultra. Higher and higher, until the infinite, where there are no limits and everything is possible. Icarus also went beyond. He flew too close to the sun and died. The last thing Midoriya sees before being embraced by darkness is the worried face of the first user. That is the last thing I want for you. He falls asleep. You should be healed enough to walk now. As for that, that's what you get for overusing your ability. Let that damaged right hand of yours serve as a reminder. And I refuse to heal this sort of injury from now on. Enough with this self-destruction. You'd better find another way for the boy to manage. What? How does his hand having permanent damage translate as a reminder? Woman, you took the Hippocratic Oath. They kept walking, Saito-san still raging on about how unethical Recovery Girl's actions were, but right now Izuku needs to ask an important question. Oh my, you originally became a teacher at UA. To find it, successor, right? Everyone's fighting with all they've got here. They're unrelenting spirits. I can feel how strong they all are. So, I'm thinking that maybe I should find someone else to replace you? Is that it? His silence seems to be enough of an answer. None of them likes the implications, but right now he needs to listen to what All Might has to say. It's true. The students here are all exemplary heroes in the making. One for all is a lattice of power. If someone with a pre-existing quirk, like Todoroki, were to inherit it, he would become an undeniable superhero, with super strength on top of his fire and ice powers. Yoichi-san opens his mouth like he wanted to argue but decided against it. Well then. But I too was born quirkless. And being quirkless back in my day was also rare, though not as rare as it is now. My master, that is, my predecessor, possessed a quirk, but she still believed in me and took me under her wing. Looking directly at Shimura-sama, he says, out loud, "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" Hey, I did tell you. You were young, that's all. You never asked, even though I was expecting it. Frowning, he decides to specify exactly what he meant. So, All Might, you were quirkless too. Oh, that. Sorry, kid, it wasn't my story to tell. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. At first, you just reminded me a lot of myself, but you've already exceeded my expectations more times than I can count. In my heart of hearts, I believe there's something special in you and you alone. Holding back the tears, both teachers and their single student headed back to watch the rest of the tournament. He knows people are cheering and screaming right now and that present Mike is narrating as if it was a damn talk show or some shit, but all Katsuki pours his effort into are his explosions and reading his opponent. Sure, it is freaking annoying that shitty hair has a harding quirk, because the guy doesn't even bother to dodge all the attacks Katsuki is throwing at him. The damn idiot just hardens his skin and faces it head-on. It is fucking irritating. But quirks are physical abilities. At some point, there will be a breaking point. As I said, no dice, my explosive compadre. Explosive compadre? What's on? Cracking his neck, he aims his next attack at the other boy's torso. Shitty hair is always going on about how freaking hard his damn body is, but with enough rapid attack, he starts falling to pieces. And to be fair, he wouldn't last in a drawn-out fight against him. Now die! Bakugo's low-down carpet bombing blasts him into the third round. And with that, we've got our final four. Satisfied with his results, he moves back to the break room and rehydrates like crazy. Explosion might be a great quirk, but it sure makes him thirsty way too often. He doesn't even bother to watch the next match. It's obvious that Icy Hot will win. All he needs to do is find an opening and freeze at least 2 or 3 of Glass's exhaust pipes and be done with it. He was right like always. His next opponent is Tokoyami, and that makes the blonde boy grin, who doesn't bother to hide his excitement. He wants to see what Bird Brain can do, how Dark Shadow would react against Explosion, even knowing the other boy's weakness to light. Again, not a good match and not likely to win against him in the long run. But who cares? True sentient quirks are a dime in a dozen, and for Katsuki to have the chance to fight someone with one is a great learning opportunity, like fighting 2 people at the same time on live television. So, it's damn frustrating when all the Bird Bane does is stay on the defensive. No matter how many times he attacks, he is only met with shields, over and over again. It's borderline offensive and annoying. He goes for different positions, aims and heights, but is always the same. After that he ends the fight fast. Looks like our final match is set. Todoroki versus Bakugo. He walks into the prep room and is faced with his opponent. Huh. Why were you in here? Prep room, This is room 2. The other boy barely spare him a glance before looking away without even acknowledging his presence. And how the fuck was he to do that? Just because he is the son of the number 2 hero, that doesn't mean he's better. And so, what if his stupid quirk is so flashy? This damn half-and-half bastard. Hey, I get that I walked into the wrong room, but giving your final opponent the cold shoulder? What's the big idea? Look me in the eye, half and half. Nothing. Again, nothing, not even after an explosion. That Midoriya basically told me the same thing. He went out of his way to smashing what was holding me back. You've been friends since you were kids, right? Was he always like that? What? Deku? He wanted to talk about Deku? Got ya. Fine, yes, Deku has always been like that, the same damn reckless and stupid quirkless nerd with no regard for his own safety or peace of mind of others. There is no point in denying it. And then his stupid brain does him the favor of replaying that memory. Do you need help? Can you stand? That damned nerd. He kicks the table, and it was damn satisfying to see that he managed to get some reaction at least, something completely because of his actions, but he was still far too angry to just be quiet. Who the hell cares? All his stupid speeches? And your family? Your damned feelings? Who cares? Come at me with your left side. Go on. I'll crush those flames like I do everything else. He leaves the room before the other boy can respond and heads back to the arena, gripping the water bottle a lot stronger than needed. If the hallway started to smell like burned plastic, it is no one's business. At last, we've arrived. The best of the best among the UA's first years will be decided. It's the final match. Todoroki versus Bakugo. Not even a millisecond has passed, and Bakugo is faced with a glacier heading in his direction. Of course, half and half would aim his attack carefully and stay on guard at the same time. He would be an idiot not to. But as he is digging his way out of that iceberg, Katsuki can't avoid but grind his teeth. Todoroki didn't use his fire. What, is Deku good enough for a real fight, but not him? What a joke. So as soon he is out of that stupid igloo, he dodges the next attack aimed at him and grabs his stupid classmate by his hair before tossing him away. But he did avoid slipping from the ring by making a barrier and stopping his trajectory. Another attack, another dodge. Again and again. And not a single flick of flame or fire. I ain't good enough for that? You'll regret making a fool of me. I will freaking kill you. I'm taking the first to the end all firsts. Mr. Aizawa and Present Mike are analyzing the fight, saying everything he already knows of how he is timing his explosions just to get caught by Todoroki's left hand. He's feeling him out. How he hones his battle instincts with every fight. Todoroki's moving well too, but his attacks are lacking. One phrase stands out mocking him. He's lost his drive ever since his fight against Midoriya. It's a slap in the face, the ultimate insult. You'll regret making a fool of me. I'll freaking kill you. I'm taking the first to end all firsts. There's no point in winning against some half-assed punk. No point if I can't do better than Deku. So, if you're not trying to win, get the hell out of my face. Why are you even here, you bastard? He runs and uses his quirk. Don't lose. Come on. He wants to snarl at Deku, scream at him and say that he doesn't need his fucking help. But part of him, a stupid, ridiculous part of him wonders who the nerd is rooting for. You're right. Like he would ever root for you. Using his quirk, he twists himself into a vortex of heat, smoke, and noises. It is deafening, dizzy, and it hurts to think, but with each passing second, he is coming closer to his target. He hits him, but when the smoke clears, when the rigging of his ears has calmed down a little and he can make sense of what he is seeing, the half-and-half bastard is unconscious, laying on top of chunks of ice. He is out of the ring, but he snuffed out his flames before Katsuki could even come close to him. Deku managed to make Todoroki use his flames twice. Twice, once by accident and then on purpose. And you, who always said that you were so much better, can't even get a single flick of fire. Future number one my ass. Hey! He struggles to get up, another sign of how weak he is, no doubt. So what if his vision is blurry and his ears are rigging louder than before? And who cares if he is struggling to breathe? He needs to win this properly. Stop messing around. He doesn't want to be remembered like this. Like the smug jerk of Class 1A who needed to be rescued by a quirkless nobody and then months later, his own class got attacked by some wannabe villains. Not like this. He doesn't want to be remembered as a bully like those fifth pros called him. He wasn't playing with round face, he was giving her a fair fight. And he sure as hell doesn't want to be remembered as the kid who won the sports festival on a fucking technicality of all things. So, he grabs Todoroki by the neck and he passes out. When he woke up, he refused to go to the podium. Why the hell would he? It wasn't a fair fight. I want a rematch. All the teachers look at him like he was a toddler throwing up a tantrum, and Midnight tried, once again to convince him. She even spoke slower, as if he had a learning disability or something. And what the fuck was that? All he's asking is another chance. A real chance. Please, is it so hard to understand? One of the guys from the TV channel massages his head and complains about the time schedule, and says they are already late as it is. Well, fuck your time schedule. Work around it. Oh well, guess there's no other choice then. Midnight if you please. Fine. Wait, why is Midnight ripping her sleeve? When he woke up for the second time, he was chained. Engaged. It begs the question if they just had that around or if they simply made it just for him. God, it's humiliating. He didn't want to be remembered as a bully, but he probably looks like a villain now. Bird Brain looks to him by the side and calls him a bloodthirsty beast. Of course, he would look like a beast. How couldn't he, when they are showing him bounded in chains and with a muzzle? It's humiliating and insulting. I don't want this. All Might jump into the arena. Looks like he will be giving the medals. Really, there's not a better hero to do the job, but even then, Katsuki couldn't care less. Hell, even as the man gives the copper and silver medals to Tokoyami and Todoroki, Katsuki can't even hear what the hero is saying. Heck, even Ida should be there, why isn't he? He only registers that the hero is in front of him when the man overshadows him, the stupid metal in his hands. He takes out the muzzle and, oh my, this win. It doesn't mean squat. Doesn't matter what anyone says. If I don't recognize it, then that metal's just garbage. Surely his idol will understand why he can't accept that piece of metal, a damn empty victory like that, without any value. But, in a world that's constantly graded on a curve, there aren't many who can continuously be on top. So, accept this. As a wound even. So, you don't forget. The older man is about to put the metal on his neck, but he dodges. What kind of talk is that? He is always on the top. That is why Katsuki is aiming to be the next number one. So dash. I told you I don't need that junk. He back his head into the wall, so All Might can't put the lace into his neck. So, the hero improvises and basically makes Katsuki bite the metal's lace, turning the damn thing into a new gag piece. Well, fuck my life. It was safe to say Shoyuda is having a shitty day. The pain of his bones, he could deal with. Painkillers are a miracle pill after all. Having to narrate the sports festival with Mike, he could manage. Again, modern medicine is a blessing upon this cursed land. But seeing one of your students bound and muzzle? The very same student who had been called a bully and that professional heroes called his actions the same of a villain. All because some stuck-up reporter from the NHK News and some randoms from the Hero Public Safety Commission complained about the time schedule? That was enough reason to plaster his student like a rabid dog on TV, an image that the public and Heroes Agency would remember for God knows how long? Yeah, he is pissed. That is why he is marching to the principal's office, even though he is supposed to be resting. Part of him wants to barge into Ned's office, but he knows better. Besides, likelier than not, his boss will be expecting him already. What's the point of so many securities cameras in this school if he can use them? In the end, he was right. Nedzu was expecting him. He even has a set of fresh tea ready, and the fancy biscuits he ordered from Europe, the ones he only offers to entitled parents, with equally entitled and spoiled children. But what are Midoriya and All Might doing here? He can feel a headache coming. Right now is just prowling around, just like Sushi does right before she wants to snuggle at 2 a.m. The difference is that Sushi's snuggles are welcome. Pigs? The intensity increases every time All Might open his mouth, trying to justify his actions or this god-awful fairy tale he is pouring out on them. Or is he really supposed to believe that there is someone out there that can take and give away quirks, and that All Might's own quirk wasn't in fact his own and could be passed forward to someone else, and has been, to problem child in this case? Yes, there are whispers on the underground of a bogeyman, a demon king capable of anything. But Aizawa is not about to take some drunken rambling at face value like that. Or is he really supposed to believe that all this time there has been a secret bicentennial war going on, generations of heroes, all against the same villain? Or that the villain in question was the older brother of the very first hero, the one who started this chain reaction? This is the real world, not some shonen manga. And last but not least, Midoriya had more than one quirk and, most likely than not, was distantly related to said bicentennial villain, and could take quirks as well. It was relatively easy to prove the "I have more than one quirk" thing. He simply had to display how his skin hardened on command, almost like Kirishima's quirk, but on a higher scale. That in the danger sense thing? He does not like how much glee Nedzu had on his eyes when Midoriya retold the events of the USJ from his perspective. He wants to nap. But he needs to deal with all this first. Midoriya. If I am understanding this correctly, then you only had one for all for a few days before the quirk apprehension test. There is a puzzled look on his student's face, but he answers his question anyway. Yes, sensei. Then I owe you an apology. I assumed you were acting up on purpose back then, when in fact you were still learning how to handle this quirk. In that case, I would like to speak with your mother to discuss with her about a specific training regimen for you, after school. We need her permission to keep you after school hours. We would need to see court counselors. It is required by law, after all. Don't worry about transportation, we can work something out. I'm sure Nedzu already has something that will help us figure it out your quirks more. The principal literally perks up at that. Indeed, hey. Two approaches, actually. About the taking quirks aspect, it is relatively simple. The police still has the USJ Nomu, don't they? It will be a little tricky to practice your on-off aspect of this specific area of your power, especially if we don't want to alert the authorities. No reason to cause alarm after all. Oh, but what is life without some excitement? Don't answer that, Eraserhead. It was rhetorical. Midoriya eyes are shinning now. Could Sensei erase my power? To see if it would erase all of my quirks, or merely the ones I would be using at the moment. Could he stop me from taking or giving a quirk? Nedzu actually grins. No. Oh no, non dash. I was about to say that. Yes, that would be my suggestion. Nicely done, Midoriya. The better we understand your quirk, then we have better chances of helping you. As Aizawa said, we would need parental approval, but overall, it involves a few medical exams. And a chromosome mapping. Very exciting, really. I don't suppose any of you know about molecular markers? DNA barcoding? G-branding. He knows damn well they don't, but he goes on. The G-branding, or Gimsa branding, is a technique that allows us to see the complete chromosome map. Before the emergence of quirks, it was used for many purposes, including to identify genetic diseases through the photographic representation of the entire chromosome complement. However, during the third generation of quirks, a group of scientists managed to discover that based on the shape of the chromosome, it is possible to determine the quirk a child will have, as well as possible mutations that could occur. They created a new technique based on G-branding, but completely adapted to our new reality. Fortunately, they were well-meaning people, and donated their research to the public. According to urban legend, their descendants went on to funding the island. He sips his tea, finishing what he had to say. With that being taken care of, Shoyuta moved to the next item of the list. Yagi. Why yes. You are either incompetent or an idiot. Cleaning a beach for a month does not qualify as training. Neither does changing his diet without the help of a nutritionist. Considering I haven't heard a single work about the boy's mother, I will assume you haven't spoken to her. Oh, and giving a stockpiling quirk that has been stewing around for decades to a supposedly quirkless teenager on the day on the UA exam put his life at risk. His coworker opens his mouth to speak. Shut up. I'm talking right now. Not you. He does so, while Nedzu just keeps drinking his tea and tries, yet again, to offer another biscuit to Midoriya, who is sinking further and further into the couch. According to you, all for one has been defeated. Where is the proof? Have you seen it? People always forget to check for a body. Boys. It was quite impossible to survive that. He takes a deep breath. You survived a punch through the stomach, with your guts hanging out, and has been living with only one lung. So don't talk with me about surviving chances. What? They all looked at the white-haired boy, who just now realized his mistake. Midoriya. He shoves at least 3 biscuits inside his mouth at the same time, almost chokes on it, and needed to drink quite a lot of tea to calm down. Midoriya. The teenager looked positively ashamed for some reason, but still answers. Yes, sensei? Since when do you speak Chinese? Mr. Saito is teaching me. He simply needs to look to All Might and confirm his theory. The name doesn't ring a bell to the older man either. That is suspicious enough, far too dangerous to ignore. And who is this Mr. Saito? The boy takes a very deep breath before answering. He was the second holder of One for All. He was a Chinese immigrant, you see. His student stops and listens to something that only he can hear. He was born in Guangdong. His mother was an ER nurse and his sister. Wait, why do you what to? Credibility? Not only that, but having a whole separated conversation as well. Arg fine. And he really thinks you should QDR heralridi bikozaitsa give away a buddy hour temporai odd to their villains? Yagi has the audacity to chuckle, so show you to hit him on the head. But he does refill Midoriya's tea to the best of his capabilities and handles it to him. The last part, if you could. The both of you please. Problem child takes another sip, his eyes full of doubt. He thinks you should cut your hair. Because it gives away your time limit to the villains you are fighting. Well, tell Mr. Saito. Situ. His whole Chinese given name is Situ Shiwang. Saito is just the Japanese surname that the government enforce into his family. That checks out. During the first and second generations, the Japanese government quite literally made immigrants cut ties with their homelands, all while giving them underpaying jobs and poor living conditions. Not something that they recognize or even mention on the history books, sadly. But then again, insistent denial seemed to be the practice for a long time for his country government. Aside from Mr. Situ, who else is there? Midoriya literally looked relieved after he said that. He started talking about all the holders. First all their names and quirks, how they all died fighted against all for one. Marita Hashizu, who ended up becoming a freedom fighter but had to put an end to his best friend's suffering, of Situ's suffering. Of Shinomori Hikage and how his own quirk forced him to become a hermit, who wasted his days training for a power that killed him in the end. They learned of Daigoro Banjo, who liked to laugh loudly, of En, who was quiet. They talked of Shimura Nana, and Yagi had to leave for a moment, trembling and with tears in his eyes. Midoriya, almost as if he wanted to apologize, talked about a vestige of Yagi, a small part of the other hero soul. Hoyem Toshikun. I hope you don't mind, All Might. Well, it's just different, that's all. Not at all, my boy. Is he cool? He gets hit again for that one. Of how most of the days, his white-haired student would be walking around the city and have the strange feeling of déjà vu or think, oh, there used to be a park here. How sometimes he would have to blink and focus twice, because he swore he saw a different building or the wreckage and smoke and blood. The boy was crying in the end and Aizawa was glaring his coworker and cursing himself for being in a full body cast. Granted, it really seemed that Yagi didn't know about this. He seemed surprised the heard and know that Midoriya could see and talk to the past holders. What is this? A haunted quirk? Either that or it is cursed. Nedzu arrives again with a fresh batch of cake and tea. Here you go. I asked for lunch rush to make it. I hope you enjoy cheesecake. Tea, thank you. The principal serves the boy a very large slice, but who cares? He needs it. Well, don't you worry. This is merely a small bump in the road. The main problem seems to be communication. More precisely, how we are going to talk to them. Midoriya takes a few bites of the dessert and apologizes for all the trouble. It's a good thing Yagi spoke first, or else Aizawa would have quite a few words to say about that line of thinking. My boy, we are your teachers. We are only doing the bare minimum. In fact, I think I may have a solution. Have you ever heard about David Shield? Being the ultimate fanboy that he seems to be, he of course did. Well, since we work together, David knows about One for All. Not only that, but he is also a renowned scientist and create brilliant support items. I am sure that if there is anyone who can help, it will be him. So don't you worry, my boy, it will all work out. Aizawa breathes easily. After Midoriya is gone and both Aizawa and Nedzu had talked with his mother, and received her permission to go on, Shoyuta asked the principal for something stronger. He did serve him a great scotch, but the Eraserhead would prefer not to have the excuses to need to drink such strong liquor. Well, now, whose great idea was to bound and gag Bakugo? I just want to talk to them. Nedzu laughs. Oh, like you do it with the Yakuza? Yeah. Things got slightly better after the sports festival. Talking with Izuku's teachers lifted the world's weight on his shoulders. Yuichi can rest a little easier now, knowing that his nephew has actual living adults, real professionals that he can rely on and help him with his dream, who can do more than the occasional pep talk. Because that all he can do isn't? He is a glorified life coach, a bad one at that. While the rest of the holders have actual experience with hero work, with risking their lives for the greater good. What does Yoichi have? I just happen to share a family name with an S-ranked villain. He shared his insecurities with his husband, and as always, Shiwang knew exactly what to say. Sometimes I don't know how to act around him. I need to keep filtering my own thoughts, just so I don't teach him where to stab someone or tell him it's easier to slash people's arteries. He chuckled. I remember that lesson. What was the pro tip again? To punch them where you stab them because that way they won't feel the knife wound and think someone just hit them. They laughed again because sometimes laughing at how absurd their lives used to be is the only way they could really cope. It seemed better to turn their trauma of fighting, dying, in a war so long ago than to deal with the trauma and nightmares. Shiwang kissed him on his forehead before speaking again. After 10 years on the sidelines, just watching everything. For him to listen to us again, to answer. It's overwhelming. But you are forgetting something. He looked up into his husband's eyes. When the truth comes out, he will need someone to talk to. Someone who truly understands what he will be going through, to help him remember he is not his father. No one can do this except you. God, isn't that true? Just by seeing Izuku cry today, it brought a lot of memories back. All the times when Yoichi cried alone in his room, always trying so hard to be quiet, whenever his parents would argue about their debt to the hospital. Back in the vault, where he stopped caring if people would hear him, only to wonder later, with his throat hurt, body shaking from a mix of anger and shivering from the cold, if there was really anyone out there to listen to him in the first place. When he told Shiwang everything Hisashi had done, all the acts of complete disregard for boundaries or opinions acts Yoichi tried so hard to justify were made out of true and real concern and brotherly love, only to realize they were twisted lies. So that night, in Izuku's room, Yoichi looked him in the eyes and promised to always tell the truth from now on. They will answer every question he has about one for all for one, about them. Of course, he discussed it with the others before reaching a decision. They all agreed to it. And yes, Izuku had questions. I want to know more about you guys. Of course, we can talk more about our meta abilities tomorrow. No, I mean yes, I will need to know more about all of your quirks. But that's not all that you are. He twists the hem of his shirt. All of you had a life before one for all. Real people with families and hobbies. I know En-san likes cats and Banjo-san really likes to eat fried chicken. That Shiwang mother was a nurse. His nephew takes a small breath. If it is okay, I want to know about your lives. The 7 of you are more than just your quirks to me. Yoichi can't help but smile. Not like his father, indeed. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. 7 times. Isn't that something? I fainted 7 whole times since the cavalry battle. And the last 2 times were from dehydration. You've even got me beat in that department. Oh, so they do suffer from dehydration. Someone hit Banjo as usual. Sure, he said what everyone was thinking, but there was no need to say it out loud. That's right. I know you told me your quirk suddenly manifested, but why does it have to be such a risky power? But I am so glad your teacher is willing to give you extra training. Of course, I support you, but that doesn't mean I won't worry. On their way to the train station, Izuku's phone starts to ring. It is Hisashi. Damn it, they completely forgot about it. Hisashi always checked in with Izuku and Inko twice a month or so. It used to be every week, but for some reason the frequency went down a few years back. Hello, Ducky. Hi, Dad. Who calls their son that? It takes a lot of effort to not reply. If he does, he will say too much. And isn't strange to hear his brother voice again? Sounds strange through the phone, but considering he fought Toshinori and both of them nearly died back then, maybe it is to be expected. Hisashi goes on, talking and talking forever, just like he used to. So, I finally watched the sport festival. Not good at all. It sounds so much like casual conversation, but his brother just doesn't do that. Everything has a meaning, everything has a purpose. And why does Izuku sound so bored? When did that happen? Izuku used to love talking with Hisashi, either by phone calls or text. Now out of the sudden he is being rude and wants to cut the conversation short? Ducky, are you sure the dash? I'm sure, Dad. There is so much left unsaid behind those 2 words. If you paid attention to me, you would know. You can't change my mind, don't even bother. Who do you think you are? You are not even here. I want to help people, Hisashi. That's all I want. He was thrown into the vault 2 months later. He wants to warn Izuku. He wants to reach out and protect the boy from his own father. You don't interrupt Hisashi, you don't. Shiwang holds his hand. He's not here, Flota. He can't hurt him. Deep breaths. He can't hurt him. Can't hurt. Yoichi squeezes his husband's hand. Hisashi chuckles on the other side line, from somewhere else in the world, or maybe not. You can never know with him. Now Izuku, I'm just worried about you. I'm sure your mother is as well. She is supportive, actually. Anyway, I have to hang up now, Dad. I'm getting off soon. Bye. The other line is quiet for a while, but eventually his brothers say his goodbyes like nothing happened. Like he hasn't been so utterly disrespected and cut off by his own son over a matter they both disagree since Izuku was a 2-year-old. I've been punished for so much less. Izuku, HM? He is about to tell the boy that he should apologize, but Tenya sprint past them, running despite the rain. He only spoke his mind, dearest. I know. Yoichi also knows what really means to be in the receiving end of Hisashi's love and care, to be his family. He still has the scars to remember. As they go to class, they all notice how strange Tenya is acting. Sure, his brother is in a hospital after facing a dangerous villain, and each person deals with their emotions their own way, but it still strikes them as odd. Inside the classroom, everyone was talking about their 15 minutes of fame, how people recognized them in public spaces and congratulated them for their efforts, took photos and asked for autographs. The chit-chat stopped the second Eraserhead stepped inside his classroom. Dude was a mummy not even 2 days ago, so how? Miracles of modern medicine, I suppose. Today we've got hero informatics class. And a special one at that. An's eyes seem to light up as he whispers something about legislation or the Constitution, which would make sense to know a little more about it than the average person, considering he was an underground hero back in the day. You'll be coming up with your hero aliases. It's difficult not to laugh, especially because Sixth pouts after that. But it also takes him back to when Izuku first tried to come up with a hero's name, when he was just a toddler and asked for their help. To hype him up, as if he needed it, Banjo started asking around everyone's else aliases. Did the trick? Until Izuku found out that neither Morita nor Shiwang had a hero name. Or Shinomori, which was the straw that broke the camel's back and made him cry. Back inside the void, Banjo sat in the shame corner for a while. But first, concerning the pro draft picks I mentioned the other day. It's based on whom the pros think will be ready to join the hero workforce after another 2 or 3 years of experience. So you could say that it's a way for them to show interest in your future. But there's ample time for their interest to wane before you graduate. And any and all offers can be arbitrarily revoked. It happens quite often. If you're picked now, that just means there'll be higher hurdles in the years to come. Now, here are the complete draft pick numbers. He tries to find Izuku's name, but it's not even on the board. Then Aizawa says that whether a student was picked or not, they would still work alongside a pro hero. Apparently surviving an attack against the League of Villains on USJ really leaves a mark and seems to be an effective argument in these kids' favor. About your hero names. They're only tentative, but you still want to pick something appropriate. Duh. Or else you'll know true hell. The name you pick now may be what the world ends up calling you. No shit, Sherlock. Just true enough. And Midnight here will be assessing the sensibility of the names you pick. What future do you see for yourself? The name you choose will bring you ever closer to cementing a certain image because names are capable of reflecting one's true character. Oh wow, no pressure. Shimura. What? Hard to disagree really, but honestly, he isn't worried. Sure, Izuku had all these cute little names like Mighty Boy, All Might Jr., or Mighty Man, but he was a toddler with a newfound obsession. Besides, his nephew is clever. He'll come up with something. But 5 minutes had gone by, and nothing. 7 students already picked their names. 10 minutes, and fewer students are left without a name, either because the teacher rejected or because they still didn't figure it out. 12, and there is only his nephew, Ida and Bakugo behind. And still, Izuku is just looking at the plaque as if holds the answers to all his questions. Izuku, I have a question. Okay. Is it really fair for me to become a hero, despite being related to an S-rank villain? How can I be a hero knowing that? Izuku, we talked about this. It doesn't matter, because you are nothing like him. I find it hard to believe that I'm nothing like my own father. They don't know what to say. How? It was mostly just a process of elimination, really. Way back then, right after the attack on USJ, I received a phone call from him. And of course, I noticed how uncomfortable all of you were just by listening to his voice. I knew none of you would hold any remorse against my father if he was innocent. You don't hold it against me, why would you do it against him? So I decided to test some theories. So I started to question Mom more about Dad, about his side of the family. She never knew anything about his parents, but knew he had a younger brother that passed away. I did this a few times, but it was enough to realize that every time I mentioned my father, the reaction of all of you had been exactly the same as when I make questions about All for One and the crimes he committed. Did you just Pavlov our asses? I don't know what that means. I'm pretty sure you did. God, sometimes I forget how clever you are. You're not mad? Oh honey, no. We are surprised. He kneels down to his nephew level. I mean what I said. You are nothing like him. Remember yesterday? When you said we were more than just your quirks to you. Izuku nods. My brother would never think like that. Sure, you both admire quirks, but you respects the unique personality behind that power, while my brother is only interested in the usability it has for him. He places a hand on his nephew's shoulder. All I'm saying is that you don't have to be chained down by your family blood. Izuku looks once again to the plaque and smiles. I know what I want to do. He writes down and goes to the front of the class. Linkage. Rinkeji. Some of his classmates and even the teachers look confused. So his nephew smiles. At the end of the day, quirks are passed down from our genetic material. But we shouldn't let that dictate our entire lives. It is a matter of how we use a quirk that makes a difference. I intend to make this power my own and save as many people as I can. They cheer him on. She is floating by Izuku's side, a smile on her face. Eraserhead is going on about more important details of the internship, how it will start next week, how students who got drafted will be handed a personalized list, and those who didn't were given another list with 40 agencies all over the country, each with a different speciality and region. Still, if any of you are having trouble choosing an agency, feel free to ask for our help. As your teachers, that is why we are here. Again, that hobo of a man keeps proving himself a better professional than Izuku's previous teachers. She looks back to the white-haired teenager, who was already mumbling the pros and cons of every option on that list. Is that the same toddler who I used to play with? When did he grow up? Is a nice name kid. Do you think so? Luckily Banjo notices how emotional she is about to get, and how close she is to crying. So he jumps in. Heck yeah. And this is coming from someone whose name was Lariat. Wear that name with pride, kid, you earn it. The 9th chuckles. And ask a question. I already asked what your names were, but I never asked why you chose them. If that is okay. What a sweetheart. I was Septem. A pun really, because I got my hero license in September and because of my name. She leaves out the part that her future husband helped with the choosing, of how he helped with her philosophy behind heroism. Your smile gives me the strength to go on. N comes forward and tells how because he was an underground hero, only the police and the Hero Commission needed to know his alias. Whenever a villain asked me, either I simply beat the crap out of them in total silence. Why the hell would I hand out my name to them? So they can chase me after? That actually makes sense. It was Enigma, by the way. Please, for the love of everything that is holy, tell me you've heard of Batman. They looked at Yoit. Is that a furry thing or? The white-haired man takes a deep breath before cracking his neck, a huge warning sign if there was any. I'm not judging. I'm not. He immediately gets hit on the head. Repeatedly. Moving on? Moving on. Both 2nd and 3rd had the same reason for not having a hero name. Back then it was illegal, and by their own account, it would be more accrued to call them vigilantes or borderline criminals because of their methods. Hikage explained he never did hero work because when he had one for all, he simply trained his mind and body to accommodate said quirk. And then went on about how concerning it was that no one called the authorities to report him. Why would they report you? Because I was a single man living alone in the woods and people knew nothing about me. Tell me, how isn't that suspicious? They stay quiet for a while, but the truth was, yeah, it was suspicious. So suspicious that even Morita decides to said so. That's the beginning of every single thriller/slasher film. Izuku, don't look those up, you are way too young for them. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Izuku barely manages to open the door before being faced with the bizarre image of Toshinori in a bowing pose, a tense smile on the man's face. I am here, in a peculiar pose. You don't say? Someone else has to elbow Banjo in the ribs because she is busy trying to figure out what could possibly freak her student to such a degree. And because Izuku is such a sweetheart, he asks the older man what happened. This way, kid. Someone has drafted you. His name is Gran Torino. He was once an instructor at UA, just for 1 year, and he was my teacher. She is about to smile but is rudely interrupted by a completely over-the-top and dramatic reaction to the news. Fuck. Shinomori. Well, excuse me for showing emotion once in my afterlife. She rolls her eyes because they are overreacting. As much as I would love to continue this conversation, we still are in the middle of a public corridor where anyone can hear us. Izuku. Catching up on what she meant, the boy smiled and asked if All Might wanted to drink some tea in the teacher's room. Toshinori really must be tired, because he didn't find it weird that his student just said that out of the blue, especially considering their past interactions. Izuku still treated the older man as his idol and stumbled over his words sometimes. For the same kid to act so chill, leading the conversation and entering the teacher's lounge as if he owned it? Something was wrong because he didn't even notice when Izuku picked up his phone and placed it on the table and turned on the radio. Green tea All Might? Ah yes, thank you, young Midoriya. Before her first student could go on, Izuku signed a sentence in Japanese Sign Language. A clever move really. Toshinori knew JSL because he made a campaign back in the day to raise awareness of those who used it. Is this about one for all? Toshinori blinked twice before catching on. He then actually smiled and answered the boy. The sum of it is, Gran Torino knows about it. He was friends with my master, but he retired so long ago that I forgot about him. What? What kind of excuse is that? Nana, don't be mad, but Torino can be pretty terrifying when he wants to. Heck, even Toshi is shaking in his boots. She looked over and yes, Toshi was shaking a little. But then again, he is a vortex of flames, so maybe is the wind. You guys are full of it. With his hands shaking, Toshinori asks permission to write in Izuku's notebook. After a few seconds of writing and scratching things on the paper, this is what came out. Oh, did he draft you because he didn't think my guidance was enough? But for him to make this scouting pick using his old name from way back when, anyhow, training you is fundamentally my duty, but he went to all this trouble, so I guess I can let him take a sincere crack at it. Good luck. They all look at her. Not a word. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. They establish some rules to help Izuku during his internship. Expect some kind of test. Don't be fooled by his age. Izuku. We were colleagues. Friends even. He knows about One for All and reached out in an attempt to help in your training, despite being a retired hero. Do you understand what that means? He tries to nod. He thinks I can improve. Yes. I know you will give your all, but please pay attention to what he has to teach. What is he like? She smiles. Yes, Izuku is asking with the intention of knowing more about the man who will be tutoring him for the next few weeks, but Nana can't help but feel a tinge of happiness to be able to talk about her friend again. He believes that practical experience is superior to theoretical, is a philosophy he takes very seriously. He also refuses to rely on other people's judgment. You could go down there with every single letter of recommendation known to man, he would rip them out in front of you. Torino trusts only in his own judgment. Do you guys think he wouldn't agree to have me as the 9th holder? They roll their eyes. No, if there was anyone who worked with Toshinori that would have a problem with Izuku having One for All, that someone would be Sir. But hopefully they won't have to meet. That is a completely different story. First of all, One for All wasn't even Torino's quirk, so why should he have a say on who the next holder would be? Izuku. Toshinori chose you because he got inspired by you. Besides, you are going over there to train with One for All, remember? If anything, it shows he supports you. Her newest student nods. It is a weak nod, but they decide to go on. Citizen puts his hand on Izuku's shoulder before speaking. Also, buy him something. If you are going over to someone's home, never show up with empty hands. It's common courtesy and it demonstrates that you respect what he has to teach. A nice box of oranges is a standard procedure, or even a melon. It is the season of the Ibra King, isn't it? Shimura, what does he like? Artisanal beer, but I guess he can buy him some street food. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Are we sure this is the right place? No one can blame him for having his doubts. The building in front of them is shabby and looks one blow of wind away from coming down. But no, it is the right place, and not only that. It has meaning to her. I used to work here. My first job as a hero, in fact. That's how we met. He knocks on the door. Nothing. Check the door, kid. Sure enough, it is open. I come from UA High School. My name is Midoriya Izuku. A pleasure to meet. She has to hold her laugh. That's how Gran wants to test Izuku? By giving him a fright, something straight out of a cheap Halloween film? No one is buying that. That is the fakest looking blood I have ever seen. 1. You can still smell the ketchup. 2. Spilt guts don't look like that. They turn to N with worried and questioning eyes. Again, underground hero. The boy comes inside, places his baggage near the wall and closes the door. Then he moves close to the man, who decides to do his jump scare, declaring he was alive. I can see that. Excuse me, sir. He checks Sorahiko's pulse, all the while indulging in his little play. He also checks for head injuries, just like Sidhu-san had taught him. They can all tell Torino is faking, and honestly, they don't know why Izuku is going along. I'd like to eat lunch. Izuku simply smiles. Of course, I have some oranges and a few taiyaki boxes with me. Is that okay? It seems to do the trick, especially because taiyaki was Torino's favorite snack. While Gran Torino is busy eating, Izuku is trying to clean the place in the best way he could. He opens the windows, mops the floor, and even takes out the trash. He was about to do the dishes, but Torino called for him. Tashinori, come sit with me and eat. Yes, sir. He washed his hands, dried them, and sighted in front of the older man. Izuku calmly opens an orange and speaks again. It is a pleasure to meet you, Gran Torino. When can we really start the training? Izuku seems to think for 2 seconds before putting a foot up his mouth. You neophyte. Oh, he is so fucked. Her friend smirks and hits Izuku in the shin, way too fast for danger sense to even register. You neophyte. Oh, he just had to say that. Young Midoriya is about to understand the true meaning of the phrase, fuck around and find out. The kick hit the younger boy right in the ankle with a vengeance. Hell, Torino is crackling and howling like a madman, zapping around the room just like the good old days, so fast that not even danger sense can keep up. That scrawly kid is stealing my lines now? That's rich. If Toshi could cry, he would be doing just that. It just slipped one day during an interview, and it catches on. The internet is a boltless abysm. It never forgets. It never forgives. There are so many screenshots, oh god. So many screenshots, thirst tweets and reactions videos? Why do they keep focusing the camera on my butt? Shimura Shirsho is having trouble breathing because of how much she is laughing, but between the shredded breaths, she manages to speak something about hubris and how it is broken. Maybe it's an inner joke? Hikage, work that stupid quirk of yours already. Shut up. It's not my fault if we are facing someone that has jet for feet and has that level of crackhead determination. So what? He's moving too fast. That's your excuse? Shimura-sensei laughs even louder now. But no, it's probably not that. If it were, there would be at least some buzzing sound deep inside Midoriya's head. All the zapping around, the taunting? Demanding that young Izuku puts on his costume? That is just a typical training section with Gran Torino. You will get hurt and bruised. Compared to the danger young Izuku can face doing hero work? While God forbid, fighting all for one. Some random kicks are nothing compared to that. After finally putting on his outfit, Izuku politely asks if they are really about to fight inside the building, warning Torino that he doesn't have full control of One for All and could hurt the elderly man. Izuku said elderly is planning your funeral as you speak. A close environment favors him. Her master moves closer to Izuku and asks if the boy wants tips. No, it wouldn't be a fair fight. Okay, it's your funeral. Wait, what? You sure talk a lot. I'm getting impatient. Izuku is left facing an empty space where Gran Torino once was. Marita-san is making the sign of the cross while Nana has a nostalgic smile on her face. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. After being properly beaten down by an elderly man in a shockingly short time frame, Izuku mentally declares that he just wanted a nap, a warm meal, and a hug from his mother. Unfortunately, all they had was some cheap ramen, so he took that as a consolation prize. Torino did point out good things about Izuku's fighting though. The boy's movements were stiff, and he needed to work on his space awareness. Of course, not to mention the elephant in the room. The respect you have for All Might, that sense of responsibility? There's shackles holding you back. That, especially because it is true. Maybe it's to be expected really. Young Izuku grew up watching countless videos that showed All Might fighting. It shouldn't be a surprise that the boy in question would try to copy that same fighting style. Honestly, he probably didn't even notice what you were doing. Even Toshinori tried to copy Nana's special move when he was younger, so he completely understands. But alas, it didn't work because that fighting style wasn't suited for him, just like how All Might's doesn't work for Izuku. Also, he isn't using his legs. But what is really concerning him was Izuku's expression and attitude since the beginning of the internship, his permanent frown brown, the tense shoulders, refusal to rest despise for needing to. Toshinori is too familiar with that. That strange mix of a sense of duty and debt that needs to be paid? It is part of the reason All Might became the #1 hero. He failed to save Nana and that led to her death. That very same day, among tears and ashes, he promised to save everyone. It was that very same sense of duty and debt, that same promise that fueled him during his fight against All for One, which clouded his judgment and almost cost his life. With that in mind, he goes over and asks what is on the other boy's mind. Do you feel the need to prove yourself? Young Midoriya barely has time to nod his head, then stop. Thinking like that is the quickest way to end up dead. Instead, focus on getting stronger. Luckily, his master seems to notice something was wrong, so she came forward. Hey kiddo. How you're feeling? Sore. Oh, that's good. Let's start stretching then. It's like stabbing. Once the knife goes in, just push a little further. Toshi, help me up. Yes, teacher. What? But Mr. Torino said, oh, don't worry about the old goat. You have time. Now touch. Hold that position for 20 seconds. Raise your arms. No, not like that. Hold your hands together and then do it. Keep your feet on the ground. Yes, just like that, see? Young Midoriya stretched himself before doing what he was told. Now, sit on the ground, separate your legs. As they are doing that, young Izuku starts mumbling to himself. My respect for All Might is shackling me. I should understand how to use it. And I've been thinking of one for all as more unique than it is. Is that why my moves are so stiff? What does stiff mean in the first place? I guess the opposite would be loose. Ouch, my whole body is sore dash. His face lights up, and he immediately looks at Shimura-sensei. And there it is. Nana-san, that was amazing. I mean, quirks are dash. Out loud, kid. Torino is listening by the door. Someone shouts out concerned about that. He is. Nana, what the hell? They both ignore the noise and continue helping Izuku. I mean, quirks are just extensions of our bodies. I have to use one for all more evenly. And what was your mistake? I was just blindly accepting it all and learning by rote, but... He got excited and seemed to recover a little of his energy. Later that night, Nana continued with her version of the training. Let's step outside real quick. See this back alley? I want you to jump from this wall to the other one. I know how Torino moves. He uses the surrounding environment in his favor. Do the same. Leap from one wall to another. You don't need to climb or anything. The important part is to get this done. They tell him he needs to brace his legs and needed a cushion for his arms. Starting with the second jump, he would need to power up both arms and legs, but with that instant boost, there was the risk of breaking them. The very next day, Izuku is a mess. Good morning. What's wrong with you? I was doing some training last night and lost track of time. After figuring out what you said, I decided to put it into practice. But I've got a long way to go. Every real challenge begins that way. That's just how it is. You'd be hard-pressed to get that kind of thinking out of All Might. That guy could manage it just fine from the start, so I had to teach him in a totally different way. The only thing he had going for him was his body. In fact, we did nothing but spar until he was ready to puke. I couldn't half-ass his training. He was entrusted to me by a dear departed friend. Right then, the doorbell rings. A delivery, apparently, to replace the broken microwave that got wrecked yesterday as collateral damage. The second it got set up, Izuku was told by Torino to heat up some taiyaki. All the while, every single holder could hear the echoes of Izuku's thoughts. Making one for all as natural as breathing. Thinking realistically, I have to catch up to the others, and they've had 15 years to learn their quirks. And time's not waiting for me. But to draw on more than 5% of my power, still, take years before my body's ready for that. The microwave beeps, letting everyone know the snacks are ready. Except they are not. You dummy. Look, you crammed them on a plate that's too big. They can't spin if the plate's too big. Only one part gets heated up. Have you ever used a microwave before? And then, looking at the cold and frozen taiyaki, young Izuku had the second revelation of his day. Gran Torino. This taiyaki. Me. A few seconds passed by before Daigoro-san spoke up. Yep. He finally lost his mind. No one makes the effort to Senkor him because, well, they all agree. Up until now, I was fixated on the idea of using my power. Only when I needed it or where I needed it, just like an on-off switch. So the second or third time I'd use it, my reaction would always be delayed. From the start, I should have been throwing all the switches on at once. That heat, which was only reaching a single part of me, I got to picture it spreading around evenly. So my whole body's continuously at my 5% limit. So your visualization's a taiyaki in the microwave? Sure you're okay with something so boring? Let's go for 3 minutes. Before the time is up, try to land a single hit on me. As expected from a pair of protective uncles, both Shiwang and Saito-san glared towards Gran Torino's direction. Once again it begins. Torino is moving too fast for danger sense to keep up, and young Izuku's best option is to take into consideration what he learned yesterday and try to guess what the other man's position would be. He almost managed to dive in time to avoid a kick to his head from behind, but he still got hit. What a shame. If you can't even react to this, how can you ever hope to save those who need saving? Anyone hoping to be praised as the symbol of peace had better be ready to overcome this much. Another frontal attack, followed by a second one, coming from the left side. Izuku takes both hits, but as soon he hit the floor he ducks under the sofa. As expected, Torino leaps forward and taunts the boy again. There is when the punch happens, it forces Torino to dodge to furniture, giving Izuku time to jump forward and meet the man in the air. It is a short-lived moment of brilliant thinking because Torino got away from Izuku's eye sign in a matter of seconds and hit a wall, just like the boy collided with the floor. But Izuku isn't done yet. He jumps to the ceiling and uses the surface to give an extra impulse. And for a brief moment, he actually manages to touch the older man's face. Yes, he still managed to dodge. But when was the last time Gran Torino actually had to make that effort? Nana is practically glowing with pride. She confirms to everyone that Izuku did a very good job impressing Gran Torino, and now he is 10,000% in. How much do you want to bet that tomorrow they are going on patrol? On the third day, she was proven right, because both Gran Torino and Izuku were on a train going to Shibuya, where the population is denser, ergo, more crimes are committed there. Wait, that means we are going to pass through Hosu? Barely a second has passed and Izuku's mind is overflowed with pain as an explosion happens, and a man passes through the bullet train. Follow immediately by the grotesque image of a Nomu. It is fair to say Ida Tenya is a man on a mission. Since his arrival, all he did was patrol, so frequently that even the pro-hero manual feels the need to explain himself in a very apologetic manner. He doesn't mind. In fact, if mindless walking around the city can even slightly bring him close to his goal, then he would gladly walk until both of his feet are bleeding. The hero killer. A phantom that even modern law enforcement hasn't been able to catch. It may all be in vain. But I can't help but want to pursue him. Because I can never forgive him. I knew as soon as I started researching. At each of the 7 locations he's attacked thus far, he's killed or injured at least 4 heroes. What's his objective? I don't know if it's an omen or not, but here in Hosu, my brother was the only victim to speak of. There's still a chance that he'll appear here once again. All was everything fine until Manuel spoke up one day. Hey, I really hate to ask, but you're after the hero killer, right? Are my intentions that obvious to others? I just can't think of another reason why you'd choose my agency. I'm thrilled that you did. Don't get me wrong. It's just, don't let yourself be motivated by personal grudges. We heroes don't have the authority to make arrests or dole out punishment. It's only because of advances in quirk regulation that we can use our quirks at all. But vigilantism is strictly against the rules. And if you're caught going off on your own, that's considered a major crime. He needs to bite his tongue to keep himself from saying something rude. Of course, he knows that. Every hero student knows that. What is he supposed to do then? Just sit and do nothing? Wait with his family for an update, sitting in an agonizing silence in the hospital? I'm not saying the hero killer should get off scot-free, of course. Just that you seem really serious about this. You have this intense look in your eyes. What does he mean by that? He understood what Manuel meant a few days later, in a dark back alley, facing the source of his hatred. He is painting, the adrenaline rushing through his body. A scarf red as blood. Armed to the teeth with blades. You must be the hero killer Stain. Am I right? I've been pursuing you. Though I didn't expect us to meet so soon. I am. He doesn't get to finish, because suddenly there is a sword inch away from his face. Your eyes. You're out for revenge, aren't you? Watch your damned mouth or your age won't be enough to save you. That irritated him. What, so he is not even a threat? He speaks up, shouting the reason he is there, how he is the younger brother of the hero Stain attacked, and how he comes to stop said criminal in his brother's stead. So remember this name for the short time you have left. I'm Ingenium. The hero who's going to take you down. Is that so? Time to die then. He tries to kick that villain, but that scum simply jumped out of the way before stabbing Ida's left arm with his foot. Why do his shoes have metal spikes in them? Right after, he is trampled and stabbed yet again, this time on his right arm, by a katana. Is this what Tensei had to face? Both you and your brother are weak, it's because you're posers. Shut up, evildoer. The damage you did to his spinal cord means he's probably going to be crippled for the rest of his life. What am I doing? Why say this to him? Is not like he wouldn't know the kind of damage he caused, is not like he would care out of a sudden. He'll never be a hero again. My brother. He's saved so many people, he's a leader. He's a great hero. There's no good reason you could possibly have for crippling him. What am I saying? What? Did the other victims have a good reason to die? Did they have a good reason to face this monster and come out broken? Why is Tensei different or so special from them? He knows why. It is because Tensei is his brother, and he loves him. Tensei inspired him. But certainly, the other victims also had family or friends who could say the same and be feeling the same pain and grief Tenya is feeling right now. I will kill you for what you did. What am I doing? I don't even recognize myself anymore. There is silence for a moment. Then Stain speaks. Save him first. He is pointing to the hero native, who is thrown to the side like a rag doll. I didn't even remember about him. Forget about yourself for a second and try saving others. Don't wield your power for your own sake. Because getting trapped by your own hate and acting out of pure self-interest makes you the furthest thing from a hero. That's why you have to die. Consider yourself a humble offering to the betterment of society. No, he refuses to receive a scolding from a killer. Who does he think he is? Furthermore, why can't he move his body? Shut up. It doesn't matter what you say now. You're still the criminal who hurt my brother. Incoming. There is a whooshing sound coming from above and suddenly, something breaks and there is both heat and light in the back alley. Stain screams in pain and backs away. Right in front of him, there is his friend. Midoriya? What was that? Don't worry about that. go to the main road and dash. He knows his friend is talking to him. He does. But something isn't right. His posture, his attitude. It is almost like Midoriya Izuku is an entirely different person. He looks down at the floor and finds broken pieces of glass, and a strong smell of petrol and motor oil. Did his friend just throw a Molotov cocktail at the hero killer? Ida, go to the main road and get help. That snaps him free of his stupor. Quickly, he tells Izuku that he can't move and that has nothing to do with him. Izuku just looks at him as if he spoke gibberish. Both Stain and Midoriya exchange words, but Tenya is too tense to understand what they were. As the older man was talking, his classmate huffed as if he is not bothered by any of this. Worse, it is like he has dealt with it before and is almost bored with it. What the hell is happening? Ban Fengzi. You asked me what I'm going to do. I will do what a hero does. I will save these people. You are welcome to stop me if you want. His friend lowers his body, and Tenya notices how he picked something from the floor before running towards Stain. No. If he cuts you dash. His friend manages to go through the gap between the killer's legs and is now facing his back. Before Stain can attack him with his sword, Midoriya is already in the air, throwing dirt directly into the man's face, right before punching him. Arg. That's cheating, says the man with a shit ton of knives. What is happening? Since when does he curse? Still, it is all for nothing because Stain had managed to cut him, and as he is about to lick it, it does nothing? Midoriya is still standing. Huh. Yet again, the back alley lights up and heats UPS again. Todoroki is there. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Took me a few seconds to figure it out. That group texts everyone with nothing, but you were just sharing your location on Live. It was a call for help. But don't worry. The pros will be here in a moment. Blood is pumping loudly inside his head. What is happening? Todoroki, recreate that ice armor from your first costume. His quirk needs other people's blood to work. If he gets close, ignite yourself to draw him away. Roger. How is that the same classmate who refused the position of the class representative because he himself said he wasn't suited for it? Keep making spikes to create distance between us, but don't let them block our vision. All we need to do is buy time. Sir, what is your name? But both of you, just stop it. I've inherited my brother's name. I have to do this. He's mine to... He doesn't even get to finish, because suddenly he hears Midoriya's voice. Shut the fuck up. Midoriya. Shut. His friend stares him down, a disproved expression on his face, an angry look in his eyes. Is that what this is about? Vengeance? Do you want to kill him? Fine, humor me. How will you do it? Kick him to death? Lecture him? Or use one of his swords? Ida, you can even stand. He opens his mouth and tries to argue. But he can't. It is true. Unlike Stain's lecture, this is coming from someone he cares about, and Midoriya is someone who knows what Tenya is going through. So to hear him say these things, it is a shock of reality. A wake-up call. Stain is coming through the air, a sword aimed at them, but Midoriya meets him there and drags him by his scarf. Hey there, Stainy. I've got a question about your quirk. Does the blood type affect the time limit? What? I mean, if you need to ingest your victim's blood, then I imagine it would make a difference. Either the effect is weaker the more people he uses it on, or it's about how much blood he gets. Or its effectiveness depends on blood type. He is type A. Native says he is type B. Stain elbows Midoriya in the back, and he lets go. The fight went on for a while. The two of us. We will protect them. Stop it. I can't take it. His friends are risking their lives and Tenya is on the floor, unable to move. Todoroki is sending waves of fire and ice after Stain, but the man keeps coming after them. Midoriya attacks him from all angles, but it simply doesn't matter. I have to stand up. He does. It hurts. It hurts like hell, but he does, and he even manages to kick Stain and break one of his swords. It takes all of their effort to knock out Stain. And they did it together. There has been too damn long since Torino had fought without hitting his metaphorical break. Because of his temper and his quirk, the man always had trouble dealing with people, or when he did it, he usually shouted at them, and immediately shouted back. Nana worked as a physical translator for their superiors and the press but also was just as ruthless as him when fighting bad guys. Maybe that is why he became so lost when she got murdered after that day. After witnessing that Torino just made sure Toshinori was away from All for One, all the way in America. The second that plane took off, he gave up. When her boy came back, he didn't even care that the kid didn't come to see him or give him a phone call. Being the #1 hero took time after all. He didn't care if it hurts to be that easily discarded. If Toshinori was still alive, that was good enough. He only took the white-haired kid as a favor really. Was it a pleasant surprise? Sure. Was it currently almost giving him a heart attack because of his absence, right in the middle of an attack by those freaks of nature? Absolutely. Especially because he can't shake the feeling something is wrong. He sees it when that thing had shown to have multiple quirks. That only can mean one thing. I'm leaving the rest to you. Sorahiko, make sure his dreams come true. The smile of that demon, it still haunts him. Thank you truly for this amusing farce. With that in mind, he runs through the city, chasing that kid. And when he finds him, Torino is pissed. Why are you here? I told you to stay in your seat. He kicks the boy in the face, who just apologizes for leaving. Honestly, he is too old for this. That boy is too similar to Toshinori for everyone's health and... Is that the hero killer? And that cultural appropriation hero guy? Oh God, Nana, look at the mess I am now. I don't know what happened here, but I am glad to see you're still alive. Before they can continue, he sees something in the corner of his eye, another monster. And it is diving towards them. Get down. Ha! Toshinori's kid is grabbed by something and Torino is once again this close to having a panic attack. He's old, damn it. He has been fighting prior to this and is tired and out of breath. But he still tries. For Shimura. For Yagi. For Midoriya. There is a knife flying that hits the thing right in the eye. It lets out a scream and falls from the sky. There, in the middle of the street, the panting figure of a killer standing on top of a deformed creature. The man's face is dripping with sweat and blood. It is a terrible sign to witness. Both this sham-filled society and the criminals who wield their power in the name of petty mischief are targets of my purge. All for the sake of a better society. Torino knows there are people talking, trying to decide what is the best course of action here. Did that villain just save Midoriya or take him as a hostage? Maybe, just maybe if he is fast enough. Just when you think things couldn't get worse, Endeavor arrives, sees the hero killer and immediately gets ready for an attack, completely ignoring the fact that there is a teenager in the way. Screw this. He didn't live this long just to watch another one for all died again on his watch. So Torino did what he knew best. He kicked someone in the head, strong enough for other people to hear something crack. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. The kids are taken to the hospital. Hell, even he needs a checkup. But now, there are more important matters. I'm still gonna chew you out, but before that, you've got a visitor. This is Mr. Kenji Tsuragami, Hosu's chief of police. Honestly, he is sorry for the boys. They are about to hear their first official tongue lashing, and at such a young age. Please stay seated, woof. So you're the UA students who put a stop to the hero killer, who is now receiving treatment for his burns, broken bones and a number of other serious injuries, woof. The man looks at Torino as if reprimanding him. Whatever. One concussion never killed anyone. He woke up before any permanent damage, it was fine. Besides, the guy was licking blood all the time. There is no way he is healthy. At the dawn of this extraordinary era, the police moved to prioritize leadership and maintain the status quo, so they decided not to use quirks as weapons. The profession of hero rose as one that would fill that void, woof. Authorizing the use of such might of these powers that could so very easily kill was a heavily criticized decision at first, but it would garner public support. All because your predecessors acted morally and complied with the laws, woof. But those without permission, those who inflicted harm without explicit instruction from the police and powers that be, even if they were to face someone like the hero killer, such action would represent a stunning breach of the law, woof. Todoroki's kid seems about to do something dumb, but Midoriya places his hand on his chest and stops his. Excuse me, Chief Tsuragami? Permission to speak, sir? Torino raises an eyebrow. Granted. The boy stands and gives a bow to the officer before grabbing his cell phone, doing something with it then handing it back to the policeman. Thank you, sir. I mean no disrespect, but my friends and I didn't break the law. While fighting Stain, I asked permission from the hero native for him to give us the right to use our quirks on the night times/04 of this year, in Hosu. I have it here recorded. He did what now? The chief of police takes the cell phone and sure enough, there is a video. Considering how surprised his classmates are, it is safe to assume Toshinori's kid acted alone. I would eat my boot if that blonde bimbo taught him that. While that shows a lot of foresight of you, people can argue native was coerced into it. Only if my video is taken as evidence and this is brought into court, sir. I doubt it will be. Torino needs to swallow his laugh. The cheek of this kid. Correct me if I am wrong, but isn't there legislation that prohibits hero schools from sending their students to their internship if said internship happens to be outside the school's district? Taxes reasons I imagine. Chief Tsuragami nods. Precisely. There need to be at least 100 requests for the student in question for such an internship to happen. Midoriya only smiles. Nervously, but he does so. Well, sir, then we have an irregularity. I only received one. Yet here I am. Surely Ida and Todoroki easily made the mark, but if we were going to follow this law, by the book I shouldn't even be here. But if I remember correctly, our class is a separate case entirely. All the students are conducting a study because we've faced villains before at USJ. I believe the words used by Aizawa-sensei were something about future potentials. It sounds counterproductive not to fight. We stopped one of many worst-case scenarios from happening. And what would that be? Aside from a hero with questionable costumes and name choices, there would be 3 new victims. Huh, so I'm not the only one who thinks that. 3 young boys, children really. Out of those children, 2 of them were from prestigious families, hero families. Families with resources to train them earlier, with access to better equipment. Can you imagine how Tenya's family would feel? Their oldest is in the hospital, only to receive a call telling them that they need to pick up their youngest from Hosu's morgue. Eloquent speaking. A clear understanding of the law. Showing the obvious consequences of the circumstances without calling outright the other person an idiot for not having thought of it first. Now, hold on. It is like a dam has broken, because now the kid can't stop talking. Can you imagine how civilians would feel? They are already scared because someone was killing professional heroes like it was nothing. If his victim profile suddenly added an underage demographic? Who's next then? This kid is something else. Better save his neck before he does something really dumb. Kid! He snaps his mouth shut before bowing to the chief of police again. The man sigh. All of that is what I'm obligated to tell you as the police. The real question is whether to deal with this issue publicly. If we let the story out, you'll all be lauded by the public, but you won't be able to avoid punishment. But if we keep all this nasty business to ourselves. Fortunately, the of eyewitnesses was small enough that we can hush up this whole matter before it causes problems. Handing the phone back and winking, he continues. Your decisive action and achievements will remain unknown to the public, so my advice is that you delete this. As you said it, the 3 of you have potential. Just this once, I will look the other way, okay? Not to mention it would be a nightmare to deal with the paperwork. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Huh, why you're going to the UA too? Instead of answering, Torino just stretched himself, like a cat that stayed in the same spot for too long. Scaring the kid a little will do him good. I already packed my bag and bought the ticket. Besides, it's been way too long since I've dropped by and talked with Yagi. Toshinori has a few things he needs to answer for. Why yes sir. Smiling no, grinning really, they set off to the station. But first, some taiyaki. Things finally seem to be setting in inside his head. His father was a 200-year-old villain who could steal and give quirks at will. He refused to think about the age difference between his parents. No one is ready for that door to be open yet. For some reason he can talk to the past user of One for All, which was another can of worms he was still not ready to pop open. He looks to his left and sees Torino-san promptly asleep. But just to be safe, Izuku takes out his wired headphone and plugs them into his cell phone. Hi guys. He is welcome in with a laugh. Look at you being all sneaky. He just rolls his eyes. I wanted to ask something if that is okay. Well, a couple of things actually. Oh sure. He looks toward Yoichi-san direction. Can I call you Aji-san from now on? The older man blinks. Oh. There are tears in his eyes, somehow? And suddenly he is hugging Izuku. Or at least trying to. Still, it is a nice hug, somehow warm and comfortable despite the fact that the older man, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't have a tangible form or... He gets patted on the head, a small reminder of his muttering. Thanks. What's the other question? How did you figure out that you needed to pass down your DNA to someone to transfer your quirk? That seemed to get a reaction from the man, who simply froze. He lets go of Izuku and is blushing of all things, just like Mr. Situ. Better rip the band-aid off. It was an accident. What do you mean an accident? He just blushes even harder and is avoiding looking in Izuku's direction. So Izuku looks at Awang instead. Do you mind if I call you Uncle, Mr. Situ? Oh, how can I say it in Chinese? That also brings out tears in the older man, who said it would be an honor before going on a long and detailed explanation that there isn't simply one way to refer to your family members in the Chinese language. It all depends on which side of the family you are on, and in the case, if you have siblings, then the order of your birth also plays a part. Gu Zhang. They all look to the third holder. It does mean uncle, but its literality translates as something like the husband of the paternal aunt. Since there was an ongoing joke about how Yoichi should be the woman of the relationship, a wife, because he was marrying into the family, those two decided to earn said joke. But why would people be making jokes? Oh, Izuku. Awang and I got married 2 centuries ago. So, was it illegal? It wasn't a crime exactly, but it was heavily frowned upon. People called it immoral, unconstitutional, and a danger to society. Well, but that's just wrong. His uncle smiled. A lot of things are wrong in society, but we learn how to deal with them. Back then, even having a quirk was wrong. But look how things are now. Progress can happen. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. So, the genetic cat is out of the bag. I suppose so. Great. That's great. But what does that make the rest of us? Sometimes a family can be a mom, her kid and 7 ghosts living inside, said the kid's quirk. Just saying. Izuku didn't bother to hide his laugh. You would be like an older cousin Banjo-san. Oh really? Yeah. The one who would get us into trouble. Hey! Haikage-san would be another cousin we only see at family gatherings, only at dinner time, and En-san would still be studying to pass his tests while secretly raising a horde of cats in his room. The older man's eyes are shining with the thought. What about me, Zuzu-kun? Oh, that's easy. You're my Nana. Pun intended. Pun intended. And Toshi? He blushes. He is my Toshi and I. Wait, what about Morita? Oh no, I am the appendix of the family. The cousin 4 times removed that everyone forgot existed until he drops unannounced on Christmas, eats everything, sleeps on the couch and leaves the next day. Ah, so you are a jackass. What's an appendix? Toshinori is staring at his phone, gathering the courage to make the call. Naomasa just left after delivering him some disturbing news. After doing DNA analysis on the Nomu, the police force found the DNA of at least 4 completely different people. It seems his whole body's been altered by drugs and chemicals. Put simply, he's been bioengineered to tolerate multiple quirks. His extraordinarily low brain activity is a result of that burden. Well, the real issue is that the different DNA somehow led to multiple quirks. Taking in additional DNA alone wouldn't result in extra quirks unless there was some other transference factor at play. One for All has made you quite familiar with that concept. It could be a quirk that bestows quirks. He wants to cry, because what more proof does he need? He failed. Nana wasn't avenged, and now, young Midoriya is in danger, not only because he is the new holder of One for All, but apparently is also a distant relative of the symbol of evil himself, given the fact he could also take quirk as well. The very thought of that monster having descends seems wrong somehow. Sickening. But knowing that one of those descends they are talking about is Izuku? That's different. It only fuels his desire for justice even more. It makes him want to protect Izuku at any cost. If young Midoriya is in danger, Yagi will protect him, just like Nana had before. He presses the dial button. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. David arrives in Japan on Saturday, bringing his daughter for a social visit, and his work tools just in case. His old friend was used to all the secrecy surrounding the hero, so he didn't really bother himself about why his oldest friends invited him over completely out of the blue while speaking in riddles. It was a breath of fresh air to be Yagi Toshinori simply. For almost half an hour, he and David talked to remember the good old days. Every sentence he spoke began with an inner joke between the two men. Even listening to Melissa talk about her studies was refreshing. The sheer joy in her eyes made it worth it. It was nice to feel human for once. To just sit and be able to talk about what was worrying him, and actually be listened to, having his concerns validated. And David, bless his heart, listened to everything with an open mind and with a smile. Until he spoke when they were in his house, cooking dinner. How well do you know this boy? He opens his mouth, but can't exactly find the words. How can he explain? It's a cliché, the oldest of them all. He sees himself in young Midoriya. A quirkless boy who wanted to do more, that had so much to offer, with so much potential. How can he explain that if Nana herself hadn't given him that same chance all those years ago, All Might, the symbol of peace, wouldn't exist? Because while it may be true, that doesn't really justify it, does it? It was incredibly reckless for him to make that choice back then, especially after just meeting the boy. Does he regret it? Did he conduct an intense background check of the Midoriya family the next day? And he didn't find anything suspicious at all, so really, David is being silly. I just do. David is not convinced, not even a little. He still asks how convincing it was for Toshinori to find another quirkless boy, right when he was searching for a successor. It's hard not to feel frustrated at the way he phrased it. He spent the entire afternoon talking about Izuku, but all David can focus on is that. God, being a father to a quirkless girl himself, you think he would at least try to be better. Can we focus, please? David is kind enough to drop the subject, for now. Instead, he talks about the ideas of the gadget they will make. The intention is to be able to somehow read or at least understand the core messages of what the past holders say to young Midoriya, translate it, and then transmit it to them through the device. There is something about measuring brain waves by placing electrodes on his head. The man continues to talk, and the sound turns into pleasant background noise. Is nice. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. The next day passes in a blur. He gives Class 1A a rescue training race, almost as a reward for their internships. Sure, it will help to see the fruits of their labors, but is mostly for fun. When it is time for young Midoriya's group, he almost can't recognize him. It fills him with pride, but it also proves how incompetent All Might is as a teacher. In 1 week, Torino managed to do more for his successor than he had done since he met him. I wonder if any of the holders are talking to him right now. How petty of him to be resentful of a child. Really, is not his successor's fault, so what if he can talk with Nana for years? Maybe Toshinori was the problem. Maybe because of his failures, Nana chooses to keep her distance. Did she regret choosing him? Maybe the others didn't approve of him. He closes his eyes and forces a smile before walking towards Midoriya and asking to see him after class. Time to make himself useful. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Toshinori, you stupid, good for nothing of a student. His body moving is an automatic reaction, so he did manage to dodge, but it only made the older man even angrier. Luckily, by some sort of miracle, young Midoriya calmed him down. And while he is surprised by his old teacher's presence, then Aizawa's and Nedza being there really throws him off. If this meeting is about his quirk, why would we be here? He wonders if he is blushing from sheer embarrassment. Of course, Iwasa's argument makes sense. But is it too selfish for Yagi to want this to be a private conversation? That man was your teacher. Why yes. Eraserhead sips his coffee. God damn. Why does everyone say that? While David is explaining to young Midoriya about the procedure, The boy meekly asks if it is possible for the older man to somehow create a way for him not to listen to the past holders' conversations either with themselves or with the teachers. I know that there are things that I am not ready to hear, or that they are not comfortable talking about it. David does seem surprised and even says that they are talking about Izuku's own mind there. Maybe, but is their past, not mine. His friend is silent for a moment before saying he will do his best. After placing every electrode in its right place, David flips the switch, turns a few buttons and nothing. His successor signs. Go on. He doesn't have time to even finish that thought before the monitors start lighting up and buzzing at amazing speed, the marker going on and off again and again. Whoa. Okay, stop. The light fades the same instant the sound dies out. David is left looking at the data, a fascinating gleam in his eyes. The principal is chucking and Eraserhead is reaching for the coffee pot while Torino is just munching his snacks. He looks at the monitor. The graph is showing 9 different lines, which one at their own wave frequency. One specific line draws his attention, simply because it is just empty. Damn it, there's a glitch already? Huh, sir? Mr. Shield? Did I do something wrong? Before David can reassure Izuku, the lines start racing across the computer screen, going up, down, up, down, up, up, up. It is a zigzag, a cacophony of numbers and sounds. Mostly focus on 7, but then something happens on the empty line. One distinct, strong spike of brain activity. It happens so quickly that if any of them had blinked or looked away for a second, they would have missed it. He is about to ask young Midoriya what happened when the same thing happened again, but on a different line and a much stronger spike of brain activity, in fact, the highest one so far. After that, everything fell back to silence once again, at least according to the monitors. Thanks. The very same line, another small movement. Thank you, Nana. He hears Torino's snack dropping on the floor. They do a few more tests and with enough trial and error, David does find a way to separate a frequency from the others and giving it a synthetic voice for easy identification. He also manages to also create a separate line for the teachers/holders. Meanwhile, he finally found out why Torino was there. Apparently, young Midoriya did something so incredibly savvy in Hosu that it was enough to alert the alarms buried deep inside his teacher's mind. There was no way he learned that from you. Thank you. I mean, you figure out a way to end your fights quickly, just so you could avoid lawsuits. All because of that one time a woman threatened to sue you when you were in America. That villain trashed her wedding before I did, and I tried to keep the damage to a minimum. And David called her a bridezilla, whatever that means. Finally, there comes the day to test the product. It looks like some kind of button that would be pressed above the boy's ear. It was a very advanced technology piece, and could only be activated by their fingerprint. One at a time, they turn it on. Hello, Toshinori. He can barely hold his tears. Hello, teacher. It was a nice day in June when all Izuku's classmates promptly panic upon remembering the deadly approaching doom of the final exam date. If any of them wanted to go to the training camp, they need to ace this test. Some of the students' reactions vary, and while their kid tried to reassure his friends, along with Ida and Yaoyorozu, it didn't work. So overall, a typical high school day. Until lunch break. Ouch. Sorry. My tray just couldn't get around that big head of yours. While Izuku's friends get enraged on his behalf, that brat from 1B was still going on and on about how Class 1A still wanted the spotlight, despite winning the sports festival. Why else would they run into the hero killer like that, huh? And what if one of these days some innocent bystander, Class 1B and such, got caught in the crossfire? Oh, how scary. Safe to say, the adults have a resting bitch face now, but none can surpass the annoyance of little Machi's uncle. I better not be related to him or I'm rioting. Come again? The ponytail girl comes and saves the day by doing a neck chop and changing the subject. There will be robots. Seriously, is there a sponsorship happening? Where are they getting the funding for all of this? Humans or robots? I just blast them all. What's the big deal, morons? Hey, Deku. Seems like you're starting to manage that quirk of yours. Either way, stop pissing me off with all these stunts. Good lord, imagine being that self-centered. I'm not looking for some hollow victory, like at the sports festival. You're still holding on to that? When it comes to our term grades, like it or not, I'm going to crush you into dust. I'll open the gulf between us so wide, it'll kill you dead. Oh, his poor grammar teacher. All your work was for nothing. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. After a short bus ride, they are facing the teachers. It begs the question of why they are there. Let's begin your practical exam. It is, of course, possible to fail this exam. If you want to attend the training camp, then don't mess this up. I have a bad feeling about this. Please stop quoting Star Wars. And sure enough, as a self-fulfilling prophecy, Netsu pop out from the Eraserhead scarf/capture weapon saying that the exam format has been changed. From now on, we'll focus on battles against flesh and blood opponents. It is critical that our teaching simulates practical experience as closely as possible. As such, your students will be fighting one of the teachers you see here. Your pairings and assigned teacher have already been decided. Your battle moves, your grades, your friendships with one another. Oh shite. All these factors and more were considered, so without further ado, they started listing the pairs. But there was only one obvious choice in this matter. Next, Midoriya is with Bakugo. Your opponent, Toshinori, steps up. Will be me. You'll have to work together to win. So come at me, you two. Mother, fucker. 10 stages have been prepared, and all teams will begin simultaneously. The test guidelines will be explained by your respective opponents. None of the areas is outside the school grounds, but let's not waste any more time. Get going. The other bus ride, with only Toshinori, Katsuki in them, was ridiculously tense. Yagi, bless his heart, tried to break the ice asking if the boys wanted to play some sort of game or something. Nothing. This is where we will fight. Fight? You can't expect us to beat you. No matter what we do, that'd be impossible. Pessimistic and impatient, I see. Allow me to explain. Saito-sama's eyebrow twitched. Aim for the surgery scar. What? For his stomach. And when he bows down in pain, break his nose. Yuichi-san has fire in his eyes. It is a very, very scary sight, but honestly, it always serves as a reminder of who exactly he is related to, and how both are equally unhinged. Toshinori chuckles and shows the boys a bracelet. It will weigh him down with a whole extra 50% of his body weight. Considering he will be using 4 of those things, maybe the boys have a chance. Unfortunately, their kid is paired up with the world's stubbornest explosive teenager. Trying to bring this fight down to our level or something? That's insulting. That is called giving you a fair shot. Not that you would know it. Toshinori just smiles defiantly before going on with his explanation. The time limit is 30 minutes. They can either handcuff Yagi or escape. Simple enough, right? Because the man will be playing the villain and seems determined to stay in character. And he has met the worst one out there. Not only that, but the test has everything to do with decision-making, teamwork, and communication skills. This is going to be fun. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Nana is positively radiating repressed rage. She has that smile on her face and doesn't stop staring at Katsuki. It is a wonder how the boy doesn't feel it. Stop following me. Beating him down's the best option. Get ready for a phenomenal ass betting then. Izuku, please, just watch. This is worth not going to the training camp, I swear it. Uncle, a little help? Oh, I'm sorry, you want constructive arguments? No. I wanted to see this brat get beaten down a peg or two since he was 4. This is happening. Little Machi looks like he wants to scream. Either with them or Katsuki, it is unclear. I think we're better off avoiding a battle, no matter what. We'll let him toy with us until the very end. Then, when he's exhausted, I'll let him have it. Oh God, that is laughable. Does he think that he can tire out our Yagi in less than 30 minutes? You will be puking your guts out before 10. Izuku, this is your chance to be aggressive. Say what is in your mind. Hey, this is All Might we're talking about. Even with that handicap, there's no way you can beat him, Kaken. The punch didn't land only because Shinomori's quirk warned Izuku. But the fact that Izuku did manage to dodge only soured his mood even more. Stop talking. Do you think you're all that? Well, it's pissing me off. Your fucking temper isn't of our concern. If we want to pass this test, you gotta listen to what I'm saying, Kakin. Do you think I need your stinking power to pass? Forget it. Oh, for fuck's sake. Leave him behind and finish without him. He is impossible. Yeah, maybe that will teach him something. Stop yelling for once. This is why we can never actually talk. All it takes is a single punch to cease the fight, and really no matter how many times Banjo sees Nana's kid in action, it will always be amazing. Of all of them, Yagi was the one to truly make one for all his own and took the quirk to another level. Whenever he used one for all in the past, it was more like a boost, something that keep him awake when he was dead tired. But Toshinori? Yagi Toshinori looked like he was from another world entirely. Get ready to have a terrible time. Who cares about keeping this town intact? Think of this as just a test, and you're going to have a bad time. I'm a villain, heroes. So, give me your best shot. Beside him, Sidhu-san whistled and said something about déjà vu while Izuku tries to reason with Katsuki one more time. It doesn't work, because while Izuku does the logical thing and bolts out of there, his classmate decides to attack their teacher, first by blinding him with the lights of his explosions, literally like stunt grenade. The boy leaps forward, is rudely grabbed by Toshinori. By his face. Well, is one way to shut him up. But of course, the kid doesn't give up and sends a great number of explosions his teacher's way. Considering how close it is going to hurt. Overall, a good idea, to get too close to the enemy just to attack them. But a terrible one in the long run. All Yagi needs to do is throw the kid away, and there goes Katsuki's advantage. Throwing the kid away is precisely what Yagi does next. In a way, slam him across the floor, knocking the air off the kid during the process and intimidating Izuku, all in one move. Luckily, that turned out to be the wake-up call Bakugo needed to bolt as well, leaving the scene as soon as he got up. The kids start arguing again about the same thing. Izuku says it's better to run, or at least think of a better plan. Katsuki says that he will win because that is what heroes do. What kind of logic is that? Meanwhile, they are still being chased by Yagi. Oh look, there he is. Wait, what is he holding? Is that? Dear Lord, it is a guard rail. It is a metal guard rail with very sharp edges that he promptly uses to trap Izuku and then punches Katsuki with enough force to make the kid puke and send him flying. He is also pretending to be Torino. But none of that matters because Yoichi-san is screaming like a madman. Toshinori, you better take your sweet-ass time from joining us, because when you do, I will be waiting for you. Honey, I will make the fight you had with my brother look like a walk in the park. Did you hear me? While they are trying to control their friend, Izuku is struggling to get free from his metal jail and help his friend. I get it. This is about Midoriya's incredible growth, right? When he starts at level 1, and you're at level 50. Naturally, you'll be growing at different rates. They stare at the 8-holder with disbelief. Toshinori, that is not the time. Don't throw it all away, okay? Don't you see here? You've still got room to grow. But it's not a matter of power for you. Zip it? All might. If you're saying I gotta rely on his help, then I'd rather lose. Well, fuck you too, kid. Yagi is quiet for a few seconds before speaking again. As long as you have no regrets. Izuku finally manages to get loose, before punching Katsuki. Nice job, kid. I don't know where that came from, but yes. Banjo. You'd rather lose? That doesn't sound like you. Their kid then grabs his friend and leaves, dragging him away. Get off me, you. Shut up. Whether we try to beat All Might or run from him, I honestly can't think of a single plan. But why not try using me before giving up? I don't want to hear you say it's fine if we lose. The one who never throws in the towel until he's won is you, isn't it? They stop to catch their breath and finally start talking for a change. Honestly, the fact they are pulling aside all their past feelings aside, all the envy, the disgust, the sense of inferiority, their rejection, their awe, maybe is a first step to something better. They reach a compromise between running and fighting. The boys go to work, to their places. The trap works. Katsuki manages to grab their teacher's attention so Izuku can shoot the man from behind. While Izuku pulls the pin, he apologizes to All Might for hurting him. Oh, honey. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Once again, the kids are running, but this time toward the gate. Of course, there is some kind of bickering between the two, because while Izuku is wondering if the last blast hurt their teacher, Katsuki is sure that it simply slowed the man down. If he comes at us again, he'll get a taste of my gauntlet this time. Let's see it then. Motherf dash. Katsuki goes to attack, but Yagi breaks the gauntlet before he can even aim. Then he throws Katsuki to the side, before grabbing Izuku by the arm and using the boy to hit his classmate. They stare with disbelief because what the hell? First the guardrail, now this. It's that freaking scene of the battle destruction of Isengard? Sidhu-san looks at his husband. How am I attracted to you? Toshinori stomps on Katsuki and starts monologuing. Man, he is milking this whole, staying into character, huh? Izuku is trying to get away, but Yagi makes it easy for him and just throws him to the side. Good timing too, because Katsuki decides to shoot, yet again, another blast toward All Might's face. It makes the man step away. Katsuki gets up, grabs Izuku and says, I'm going to blow you away. Huh. He does so, screaming as usual. As Izuku goes flying, Toshinori decides to follow and improvise his attack, New Hampshire Smash, by throwing it back and hitting Izuku's back. What the actual fuck dash? Too naive, my little heroes. Somehow Katsuki is still up and running. Those gauntlets let me go at full power with no risk. That was dumb of me. We had no hope of beating you without taking a few risks. So, get out here, Deku. I can handle him better than you and your half-assed improvisations. Make yourself useful, you piece of crap. Dude. Can you at least try to phrase it better? Izuku is about to go forward but stops when hears Toshinori attacking Bakugo. Sweet dreams, Bakugo kid. Because of that sort of self-destructive attack, it's a little too traumatic for your teacher to watch. Yeah, a little. But of course, it seems the kid has rabies, because he bites Yagi's hand. I'll break. Correct. Even if it messes me up, I chose this path to victory. Because I just can't accept that even this ain't enough, I won't. Say what you want about Katsuki. He is just persistent and stubborn as Izuku, if not more. Whoops. Can't let you do that, Midoriya. Kid. Do you? Izuku seems to have a change of mind because before they notice, the kid is jumping in his teacher's direction. Out of my way, All Might. The punch hits hard, and Izuku drags his friend away, just in the nick of time. They pass by the skin of their teeth, but they pass. Tamura doesn't even remember how he ended up in the Kiyoshi Ward shopping mall, but he needed to cool his head. Bloodlust without conviction is meaningless. The meeting with Jiren wasn't a total disaster. The man did his part and introduced two people who were willing to join the league. But they were the kind of trash that Tamura hated. A teenager brat that keep talking nonsense with a constant smile on her face, some kind of freak with a few loose screws, and some guy without manners, who refused to even give his real name. Now what really pissed him off was how they kept talking about the hero killer. What is this, some fucking fan club? So yes, he had to walk away before killing someone. So now he is walking aimlessly, hood covering his face. While looking around, is easy to find Stain merchandise being sold to children. On the other hand, you're getting sympathy from people who couldn't care less about your ideals. Why is that? We're doing the same thing. And you? We're both just destroying what we hate, right? So why? What's the difference? His skin starts to itch and he wants to scratch it so bad. But then he sees him. You're from UA. Can I get your autograph? You're the kid who got wrecked in the sports festival, right? The kid that attacked his Nomu on UFT. The reason Sensei told him to watch you at a sports festival. And apparently, or at least according to the gossip, the real person behind Stain's arrest. Smiling, Shigaraki walks over. Cool. You're from UA. Can I get your autograph? You're the kid who got wrecked in the sports festival, right? Yeah. He throws his arm over the boy's shoulder, stopping the other from running away. Then, during that business in Hosu, you ran into the hero killer. You're something else. You sure know a lot about me. And yet not enough, because Sensei kept asking more and more about him. No, he's not jealous. Man, I can't believe it, though. To think we'd meet again here. Can't help but think that something special helped you come this far. He grabs the brat's neck, subtly enough to not alert other people yet fast enough, so the brat couldn't do anything about it. Something like fate. Or destiny maybe. Well, I guess for you, we last met in that attack on Yua. Let's get some tea and chat. Izuku Midoriya. The realization of the situation quickly settles on the student. Shigaraki smiles, grinning really. Easy now. You're gonna act like we're a couple of old pals. Not making a scene, okay? Calm down. Breathe naturally. I just want to talk. That's all. So don't you try anything funny? It'd be all too easy. The second all 5 of my fingers touch your neck, your throat would start crumbling from the skin inward. You'd turn to dust in under a minute. I in a crowd like this? Try that. And the heroes will show up. They'll come and catch you. There it is again. That blind faith, yet there is not a single hero in sight. No doubt, but look at them. It's not crazy to imagine that someone could commit an atrocity at any given moment. So why do they smile and mingle like this? Because the laws and rules are built on their individual morality, they're convinced that no one would ever do that. In the time it'd take to catch me, I could take 20, no, 30 of them out. He presses his fingers again to prove a point. Talk. About what? Smart move. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. They are now sitting on a bench, surrounded by hundreds of people. Normally, being in crowds bothered Tamura too much for him to even function, but now it was necessary to prove a point. Midoriya is tense under his hand, and willing to do everything to save as many people as possible. Tamura can work with that. I pretty much hate everyone and everything. But right now, what really grinds my gears is the hero killer. Wasn't he working with you? Again with that stupid idea. I never really agreed to that even if society seems to think so. And that's my problem. Everyone's got their eye on the damned hero killer. Our attack on you. The Nomu I unleashed in Hosu. It's all been overshadowed by him. No one's noticing me. But he can grandstand all he wants, but in the end, all he's doing is destroying what he hates. So, what makes us different? Midoriya? The boy is avoiding looking into Tamura's eyes, so he forces the other to do so. All it takes is a gentle nudge to make the hero brat face him. He has a weird look on his face, almost like he wants to find the best way to call Tamura an idiot without the pesky risk of dying. I can't accept what you do. And I don't understand it. But the hero killer? Although I can't accept him, I do understand him. For both of us, it all started with All Might. Back then he even saved me. So, at the very least, he's destructive, but he's doing it for a reason. It's not just for fun. His methods may be wrong, but I think he's at least trying to live by his ideals. And suddenly it clicks. The image of dismembered hands in a pool of blood comes to his mind, and the itch came back in full force. It made so much sense. Yes, of course, it all goes back to All Might. It's all so clear now. Feels like I've connected the dots. About why Stain pisses me off so much, and why you're so damned irritating. I think I get it now. He smiles. It's a genuine smile, big enough to hurt his face. And for some reason, the hero brat looks like he is about to panic. It's all 'cause of All Might. Right? That's the conclusion here. Man, what was I so hung up on anyway? The reason these fools can smile and live their lives is 'cause All Might's always got that grin on his face. Smiling wide as if to say, there's no one he can't save. Lies. I'm glad we had this chat. So glad. Thanks, Midoriya. I'm heading down the right path for me. Hey, no squirming. Or do you want to die? You say you want some of these fine people to die. Deku? Well, that's just great. Before that girl can start asking too many questions, the hero brat with the stupid t-shirt just smiles, a fake smile, with his body completely tense and sweaty, but you could tell it was a piss-poor attempt to stop her from coming too close. It's nothing. I'm fine, we're just catching on. It's almost hilarious honestly, and any other day, Tamura would drag this on. But he already has his answers, so it's time to go. I didn't realize you came with someone. Sorry about that. Whispering, he warns the kid not to follow. They both know what can happen. With a last, final warning, Shigaraki applies strength on the boy's neck with only 3 of his fingers before getting up. The child coughs before he can speak. Shigaraki! All for one. What is he after? That makes him stop. There aren't many heroes alive that know that name. Sure, if the brat is somehow involved with All Might, it would make sense for him to know about that alias that Sensei calls himself. But it doesn't explain why he speaks so non-casually about it. Almost as if he is familiar with the man. Shigaraki. Who knows? But for now, creating a world without All might sound great. It almost brings a smile to his face. It shouldn't surprise him that he was interviewing Toshinori's kid, neither was the fact he was calling the Midoriya kid that in his head. What is surprising and honestly concerning is how frequently he manages to bump into the League of Villains. Apparently, said group are unified and is still after All Might. Which really is acceptable because not like Neo Mesa has enough paperwork to do already. Did the police establish a task force just for the said League of Villains? Did the kid give extremely helpful information? But it is not worth the number of hours of sleep he'll lose over this, nor the money he will waste on coffee to stay awake. I just wish I could have stopped him and ended it all right there. That won't do. Don't be silly. You held it together while he was threatening you and other civilians. Most people would have got scared and started panicking. It's thanks to your cool head that nobody got hurt. Toshinori is already waiting outside the station and immediately apologizes for not being able to save Midoriya personally. The kid reassures his friend that there was no trouble before asking him a question. It almost sounded like he wasn't just asking Yagi, but someone beyond him somehow, but that made no sense. Was there ever a time you really couldn't save someone? The question every pro-hero and the police officer must face at least once in their lives. Plenty of times. I am only human. I can't save people who are out of my reach. That's why I stand tall and smile. I'm the symbol of peace. The citizens, heroes, and villains. I need to light the way for all of them. Of course, he would say that. A memorized answer that makes sense on paper but not on the day-to-day basics. In a superhuman world, what does it even mean to be a human? He was just getting back inside the station when his phone rang. It was Principal Nedzu. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. Am I supposed to be here? Nedzu just laughs. Why, of course. How else would we explain to the police the presence of the Nomu you have in captivity here, on school grounds? Touché. Right on time. Come in, Midoriya. Neo-sama looks at the boy, knowing what he does now. It still seems impossible to consider him anything else than Yagi's kid, even if the younger is related to All for One. A door opens and both Yagi, Aizawa and Midoriya arrive. Neo-sama is about to greet them but notices that their eyes are solely focused on the bounded creature behind the glass. Eraserhead even has gadgets with him, and a Yagi has his gun. I didn't know his license was still valid. The strangest thing happens behind the reinforced glass. After months of trying to get a response from the creature, both the police force nor the heroes didn't manage to get a single reaction out of him. But the second Yagi's kid entered the room, it went from 0 to 1,000 because of how fast they moved towards the kid's direction. You could even hear the bones cracking into place. If they weren't bounded, would they jump toward the teenager? Would they attack? Nedzu hums and moves his student around the room. Sure enough, the Nomu doesn't take his eyes away from the boy. Alright, now, Midoriya, remember what we talked about in my office? Why yes. Good. Go ahead. Don't worry, we have machine guns aimed at him, ready to fire at any moment. Is that supposed to reassure him? The boy steps into the room, both teachers following him after putting an earpiece and turning it on. Strange. Nedzu had one too, and he was doing something to it, connecting it to the radio. In fact, he is turning it on right now. There is a strange sound coming from it before a new voice speaks up. Are we ready? Now it was his turn to have a whiplash. Izuku. Are we sure this will work? They are programmed to not hurt him. There was no question of who they were referring to. But he just reacted to you. That's good. Try again. by standing in front of him, his hand barely touching the creature. I don't know who you were or even what you did, but I doubt anyone deserves this. I am sorry. It purrs, almost like a cat. You must be tired. Are you tired? The Nomu stares at the boy. Before nodding, what? Aizawa asks how Midoriya can communicate with it. Images. Sensations. Their feelings. A nonverbal conversation. I ask a question and immediately feel their answer. How? The boy bit his lip. I don't know. My quirk is... I don't know. The pro-hero nods before telling them to continue. I understand. I only did this on accident, years ago. But I will try my best. The Nomu nudged its head against the boy's hand. Midoriya places both his hands on Nomu's face. Before red lighting runs through him. Twice. Whenever you want Mr. Liquid Paper. Don't call me that. Eraserhead activates his quirk, interrupting the process altogether. The Nomu almost seems to be caught by surprise by this and lets out a roar, making Toshinori both activate his own quirk and clock his own gun. Sorry. He needed to do it. It's a test. Toshinori apologizes, master. That was Shimura. There is another groan from the Nomu. I know it hurts, but we are trying to figure out how to fight the man who did this to you. They cease their movement, before slowly turning their head to the boy, and begins to shake with what looks like fear. No, don't worry. He's not here. You are safe. I swear it. It lets a pitiful croak, like a dying bird. It tries to go to young Izuku as if to seek comfort. It can't, of course. It is bounded. That doesn't stop the boy, however, who steps forward and hugs the creature. Young Midori is okay. It is a bizarre image. An artificial human, a biological weapon really, is being soothed by a hero student. He tells them what the Nomu wants. That's his name, by the way. He just wants the pain to stop. That can only mean one thing, and Midoriya is simply asking permission. Through the radio, another voice speaks. Izuku. Speaking from experience, the only thing keeping him alive is a chemical cocktail and a few quirks. Take those out and it falls apart. That's an unpleasant image. Also, speaking from experience? But it's not killing. It is mercy. Can you really define Mogami as human? Even if you go through numerous theoretical debates, he would never be able to fit into society again. That's a harsh thing to say, but it is true. You don't have to if you don't want to. Quite frankly, I don't want you to ever be near this mess. But it's your choice. The boy takes a deep breath, looks at the Nomu and nods. All right then, but put on a breathing mask. And some gloves. What? Trust me. They do that. And Izuku restarts his process. But now, there are multiple colors running through both him and the Nomu. And is already happening. Their body is rotting as the seconds goes by. The black putrefaction starts and ends in a blink of an eye. The muscle tissue is already softened, organs bursting and nails falling off. Thrice, this time the lighting was even stronger than before. He is trembling, but Toshinori put his hand on his shoulder. For times. Finally, the liquefaction process becomes unrecognizable. The skin, muscles, tendons, and ligaments degrade, exposing the skeleton. Young Izuku pukes, red, white, green, and blue sparkles running and shining through him. His friend is by the boy's side at once, evident worry on his face. Eraserhead is rubbing circles on the boy's back and handles him a handkerchief. Let's go to Rico Dash. When can we bury him? He deserves a proper burial. Neo-sama steps up. Let me handle that. Your teachers are right, you need to see Recovery Girl. Toshinori doesn't need more convincing than that, so he picks up the kid as if he was a couple of grapes and leaves with Eraserhead following him. He is quite something, isn't he? I'm thinking of tutoring him myself. God help us if you do, sir. Yet again, the school had to change their plans last minute because of the last villain attack. They won't reveal the actual destination until the day of departure. There is definably a pattern, but hey, if it broke, don't fix it. Broken bones or not, you should have killed him. Boy, what? That's murder. Self-defense. Murder. Self-defense. It is neither, Jesus. Using quirks in a public place is illegal. Is it what now? After a long lecture on how and why the usage of quirks became illegal, the second holder is still pissed and angrier than before. It's time for summer break. Crap, the weasel kid. Shoo. And there's the neck chop. Good for you, ponytail girl. I hope you are getting paid for this, holy fuck. The bus ride is chaotic, as it should be. School trips need that little extra energy, and honestly, it's nice to know some things stay the same. 1 hour later they are near a valley by the side of a cliff. What the? Rock on with these sparkling gazes. No way. She turns to look and, stingingly cute and cat-like. Holy shit, we're the wild pussycats. Yes. Oh my god, I almost forgot about them. Izuku, you need their autograph. Please. I will. Third laughs, the bastard. How? They were your favorite. You kept trying to make Izuku like them more than Toshi. The fiery vestige of the number 1 hero stare with disdain towards his direction. But who cares? These are the pro heroes who'll be helping us out these time, the pussycats. Who are them again? Both he and Izuku gasped. They're a 4-member hero team who all work under a single agency. This veteran team specializes in mountain rescue operations. They've been in business for 12 years now. We're 18 at heart. Banjo chuckle. Preach sis. Mandalay goes on to explain how this whole area is their territory and that the lodging of the students is at the foot of one of those mountains. It's now 9:30 a.m. I'm thinking, around noon at the earliest. They also say they all need to be there by 12:30 or won't get any lunch. Realizing what that means, some of the kids try to run back to the bus. Oh fools. Poor fools. So 3 hours. Okays, that's manageable. Oh look, a mud avalanche. This is our private territory, so feel free to use your quirks. Why would they need to? Make it through the beast's forest. Why would you call it that? Oh yeah. Oh, that's why. Midline horizontal ellipsis. They didn't make it in time for lunch. Still, they were congratulated for their efforts. Hey, I've been wondering, that boy. Who's that child? Oh, he's my nephew. Izuku goes over to greet the boy and is punched in the junk for his troubles. First of all. Second of all, rude. Guess Inko won't be having grandkids, huh? Shut your mouth. I can't abide jerks who wanna be heroes. Ah. He's one of those cases. Eraserhead tells everyone to stop wasting time and grab their bags before dropping them off in the rooms. After that, dinner and shower. The real training starts tomorrow. Now hurry up. Midline horizontal ellipsis. Whoever said that hunger is the best spice isn't lying, because these kids are inhaling the food that is practically a miracle no one choked yet. As if following a script, Nana kept telling Izuku to eat more and Sidhu-san even pull out the argument of how you shouldn't waste free food. After reaching a compromise of 4 bowls of rice, it was time for the bath. God, I miss hot springs. So far yet so close. Yeah, none of us is about to watch a bunch of teenage boys taking a bath, thank you. I'm fine waiting outside. We're here to overcome those walls. Plus ultra. Great boy is evolving into a peeping Tom, huh? I'm just saying, now would be a really good time for Black Whip to emerge. Oh, so Hikage's quirk comes up during an invasion. Mine is to stop that? Is for the greater good, take one for the team. Before they can keep bickering, Izuku runs outside carrying young Koda, completely naked. Kid. Not now. Midoriya. Izuku, put your fucking clothes on, you're not a damn exhibitionist. Yeah kiddo, you're not a toddler anymore. Wait, what? They deliver the pass-out child to Mandalay, who thanks Izuku and invites him for tea. Koda, he seems pretty opposed to heroes. Isn't it unusual for a kid his age to be like this? Not your place to ask, get out. Naturally, there are quite a few people in our society who don't think much of heroes. He'd probably look up to heroes too if he'd been raised normally. That phrasing doesn't comfort any of them. At all. Mandalay's cousins were Koda's parents. They were heroes who died in the line of duty. En reaches for Shimura's hand. She accepts it. 2 years ago, they were protecting civilians from a villain. There's no better way for heroes to meet their end, an honorable death. Shimura scoffs at that comment, quietly, but the sentiment and the regret are there. What's honorable about dying and leaving a child behind? To Kota, his parents were his world. Just like for Kotaro. It was like they'd left him all alone. But society just kept praising them, saying that what they did was great and noble. I don't think he likes us very much either, but with no other relatives to rely on, he cooperates, and he won't talk to his therapist. Mandalay caress her nephew's hair. To Kota, heroes are nasty people he can't understand. They walk back in total silence. Back in the void, they all reassure Nana that her son would understand her reasons. He was older, they said. You explained the best way you could, they told her. But she is already questioning herself all over again, and there is nothing they can do for now. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. On the second day of training, Eraserhead tells Bakugu to repeat the whole, throw the ball while using your quirk. He wanted to see how far his students had got these past 3 months. His record was, 705.2 meters? I guess. After the ball was shot into the sky, Aizawa spoke the result out loud. Just as I thought. 709.6 meters. You have been through a lot these past 3 months. Undoubtedly, you've all grown. But it's only your techniques and minds that have matured. Well, and your bodies, a bit. I don't know, man. Our kid broke his bones like a lot. Shiwang-san laughed. Considering he used one for all a total of 14 times so far, the man makes some mental calculations. He broke 65 bones, give or take. First, it was his right arm humerus, the radius, and the ulna, both legs, tibia and the smaller fibula, and both femurs. Not to mention the knee joint, but I don't think that was damaged on the entrance exam. So far is 9. At Eraserhead first lesson, his right index finger, 3 phalanges. When he went against Katsuki during the training exercise, his right forearm, the ulna and radius. At USJ, his tactic to scare the aquatic villains makes him break yet again, 5 phalanges, this time from his left hand, the thumb and the middle finger. By some miracle, he didn't break anything when punching the Nomu, only when trying to help Yagi. It was his left leg. Right now, we are at 12. What changed was his fight with Todoroki, because by then he reached a pattern and entered a loop. Breaks a finger and goes to the next. For some variety, he does the arm as well. The cherry on the top was when he decided to re-break all the 14 bones of his right hand before finishing the job and finally smashing the remaining 13. By the end of his rant, Izuku is by the other side of the camp, as if trying to escape his past sins. They were so wrapped up in paying attention that they didn't listen to what Aizawa said, all except Shinomori. He said something about how the training will so be harsh that the children will wish to be dead. Jesus, dial back on the drama. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. I take it back. I take it all back, I'm sorry. Is this hell? Dante, you were so wrong when you wrote that insert FIC. Every single one of those children is screaming, both because they are raising their limits and training to improve every aspect of their power. And as if it wasn't enough, rock on with these sparkling gazes. We've come to lend a paw and help. We've come from somewhere. Stingingly cute and cat-like. They are fighting against them. Izuku is going against Tiger. And really, there's not much advice they can give. Should we do something? Izuku throws a punch, and the man dodges and hits their kid again. Like what? Besides, the man's got it, cover it. Stretch that lame quirk until it rips apart. Yes, sir. Sidhu-san smirks like a madman. I like his style. This night the kids needed to make dinner, and as the hyperactive children that they are, both classes get way too excited over the idea of cooking curry. In the middle of the mess, Izuku sees Kota walking away without eating, so of course he makes the other one a plate, follows the footprints and gives the food as a peace offering. He comes back without it but feels just as sad and lost as Mandalay's nephew. The third day is the same as the second, with the exception that Aizawa-san apparently eats something sour for breakfast and is now ripping a new one to his students, by kindly pointing out every flaw they have in their performance. But most importantly, you all have to make up for your piss-poor performances during the final exam. Think about that when the others are doing fine, and you lot are dead on your feet. Just like Mama used to talk. Very nostalgic. Always be conscious of who you are. That's the key to improvement. That's why you're out here sweating. Why I'm asking you this much. Keep it in mind always. As you expect, the mere mention of the remember who you are dilemma, Izuku, someone who takes a lot of inspiration from All Might, Midoriya politely asked where the other man is. Toshi, wipe that stupid smirk off your face. Eraserhead simply said that the last thing they needed was a celebrity when the UA worked so hard to keep their position a secret. All things considered, it was going well. How could any of them ever imagine that things would end as they did? He stares at the mirror, a perfect image of defeat. His eye bags had never been bigger, his tiredness so evident. It's been 3 days since both Bakugo and Midoriya were kidnapped, and Aizawa couldn't stop but remember all the key moments that lead to the biggest failure of his career as a teacher. During his bath, he remembers when Mandalay warned them that the camp was under attack. How he ran and was faced with a forest on fire and barely avoid being burned to a crisp. Always worrying about others, Eraserhead? Choosing his clothes, he remembers the moment he met Midoriya on that night, who, once again, was completely and utterly bruised to oblivion. Even back then he wanted to grab the kid by the ear and drag him away and give him a lecture at the same time. God, he wanted to scream with his frustration. Problem child, what? Why are you shirtless? Were both of his arms fucking broken again? Good God, if we continue at this rate, Nedzu will need to give Recovery Girl a big fat raise. I am calling your mom when this is over. Instead, he told the boy to find Mandalay and tell her this. I'm giving permission for everyone in classes A and B to fight back. That night, while carrying Koda to safety, he found out about how his teenage student fought the same villain that killed Koda's parents. Later, Tokoyami and Shuji told him how Midoriya found them and managed to get Dark Shadow under control while also finding Todoroki and Bakugo, all while taking out another villain in one move. As he put on the suit, he also remembers how Kendo and Tetsu defeated the middle school boy who was responsible for the toxic gas. How Yaoyorozu and Aways managed to put a tracking device on Inomu. With Tsuyu and Ururika, he found out about Toga and how as they were going back, a masked villain managed to capture Bakugo by using his quirk on him, turning the boy into a marble of all things. While shaving, the man can't help but think of how it was thanks to Midoriya that he, Shuji and Todoroki managed to catapult themselves and bring the masked man down, but the downside was that they were now facing the lion's den, facing 3 criminals instead of 1. Still they fight. What else could they do? Never mind the fact that at the very last minute, despite all of Todoroki's, Shuji and Yuga's efforts, while others were fighting against seasoned criminals, Aoyama fired his laser cannon against the masked villain, perhaps due to stress. Despite all that, it was all for nothing. Bakugo was still taken away, just like Midoriya, but while one was taken away by the villains, a black portal simply appeared right beneath his feet. And now Aizawa has to face the hyenas that are the reporters, wasting time appeasing the public instead of participating of the rescue mission. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. The lights are far too bright and are almost giving him a headache. His suit, despite being clean, is itching his skin and the tie feels like it is choking him. They bow before beginning and start the speech. We will now air a segment of Uda High School's apology press conference, which took place earlier tonight. I regret to announce that our unpreparedness was responsible for the harm that came to 27 of our first-year students. Though ours is an institution for heroes and training, we were nonetheless negligent in our defenses against villains, and we understand that this has made many of you uneasy. We apologize for this deeply and sincerely. There is absolutely no excuse for what's occurred. Question from Enichit. This makes the 4th time this year that UA students have been confronted by villains. Given that some were actually injured this time, what explanation have you given to their understandably concerned families? Furthermore, please tell us in concrete terms what measures you've taken to prevent these sorts of incidents in the future. Nedzu, as the principal, responded, we've increased surveillance of the surrounding areas and revamped our school's security system. And we've explained to parents that our strong stance against villainy will guarantee the student's safety. Mr. Eraserhead, you claim it's for the student's safety, but in the middle of it all, you urged the students themselves to fight. What were your intentions at that point? Deep breaths, deep breaths. Since we had no way of grasping the full nature of the situation, I made that decision in an attempt to avoid the worst-case scenario. Worst-case scenario? How else would you describe a situation where 26 were wounded and 2 kidnapped? Keep asking stupid questions, and I'm shoving that microphone so far up his ass it will never see the light of the day again. After years of experience of dealing with him, Nedza developed an ability to tell just when Aizawa is about to become a PR nightmare and give a field day for people to criticize Yue even more, so his boss takes over. To answer your question, sir, Eraserhead didn't want for his students to die. Next question. It was something that Aizawa didn't manage to ear, considering how much effort it's taking him to calm down. Apparently, something about a gas and how the students are all receiving psychological evaluations. We believe that the worst has been avoided as long as the students still have their futures. The same man who got on Aizawa nerves raises his hand, and this time he has a smirk on his face. Can you say the same about Bakugo Katsuki and Midoriya Izuku, who were abducted? Oh, you Everyone is talking at the same time, which in reality means they are shouting over each other at barely socially and professional acceptable volume for a press conference. People now are really shoving the cameras at their faces, taking pictures and demanding answers the same way a great white shark does after sniffing blood. But of course that imbecile isn't done. According to my sources, they are childhood friends and are always getting into trouble. Bakugo temperamental is well known since middle school, and Midoriya apparently chased after fights between heroes and villains for the thrill. Not only that, but the latter was registered as quirkless according to the documents of his city hall. Is the boy lying, or is UA unable to even do basic background checks on their own students? The flashes of the camera are non-stop by now. One won your sports festival and the other showed immense destructive power. Both faced the sludge villain earlier this year. Impressive record for both. Why were they targeted? We've already caught glimpses here and there of Bakugo's mental instability. What if it was those very qualities that made him a target? What if a skilled manipulator gets to him and sends him down a path of evil? Can you provide proof that, as you say, that boy still has a future? The chatting gets louder, and you could practically see the theories forming in their minds, the eye-catching titles that would sell more papers. If I ever cross paths with you outside work hours, so help me God, I will need a lawyer. He stands up and bows down in an apology. Not for them, no, but for his students and for their families who are having to witness this mess. Any lapse in my students' behavior is my failing. However, Bakugo behaved that way at the sports festival because he has such strong convictions and ideals. More than anyone, he pursues the title of top hero with everything he's got. If the villains have mistaken that for weakness, then their thought process is indeed superficial. And Midoriya seeks knowledge. That boy is fascinated by quirks with such a passion that would put academics to shame. He pauses before looking up to the man and asking what he really wants to know. I am, however, curious about how you managed to gather this on such short notice. We never released their names or the names of the students who were injured. For you to be able to access any kind of document at City Hall, you would need an official document specifying the reason behind it. Not only that, it would need to be approved by a judge, something that takes time. So you either bribed someone for the information or harassed them into submission was left unspoken. His only solace is knowing that the man could not have done that to either of the boys' mothers, simply because Aizawa hasn't left their side after coming back from the camp. They decided to move both the Midoriya and Bakugo family to a safe location, and from the little interaction he had with them, Shoyuta can safely say that the reporter wouldn't survive an encounter with either Inko or Mitsuki, especially if the man were making those types of questions about their sons. I don't reveal my sources. Neither do we. Do you see my problem? They start speaking among themselves again, and lucky, mostly to try to save the reputation of their profession, another reporter decides to make an actual important question. Does UA have a concrete counter-strategy? We're hardly approaching this passively. Currently, I am personally cooperating with the police in their ongoing investigation. Make no mistake. We will retrieve the students who were taken from us. And with that it is over. He goes to the bathroom, where his uniform was carefully tucked away and changes before slipping out the window. Off he went to patrol the streets. If he is leaping too much and too fast, as if he has a destination in mind, then it's probably people's imagination. And if his final location just happens to be near one of the places the boys could be, it's merely a coincidence. After all, Kamino is such a small district. 3 days earlier, he followed Koda and offered him the plate of curry. Nope, don't want it. Like I said, I don't feel like fraternizing with you people. So get away from my secret base. Not much of a secret if it's out in the open. Damn Toshi, didn't know you had it in you to. Your parents, by chance, is one of them the water hose, the hero with the water quirk? Izuku. Did Mandalay tell you? Yes, but I'm not about to tell you that. It was unfortunate what happened. I remember it. Shut up, calling yourselves heroes or villains and going around killing each other like idiots. Talking about your quirks all the time, all just to show off. Idiots. Izuku doesn't say anything for a while. Were they showing their quirks off? No, they were training, but try to explain the difference to a kid who clearly is still grieving his parents' deaths. If his mother has died as some kind of collateral damage to a fight between a hero and a villain, I would be bitter too. What's your problem? If you're done here, then get out. He looks down to the curry bowl. All right then. A friend of mine didn't inherit any quirks from his parents. It's a birth defect that rarely happens nowadays. He still admired heroes, though. But in our society, someone without a quirk can't be a hero. For a while, he just couldn't accept the truth. So he trained. He tried pulling objects telepathically like his mother. He tried breathing fire like his father. He stops for a second. He had seen the man breathing fire, so it's not really a lie, is it? Not only that, but he doesn't know who the real owner of that quirk is, and probably will never know. Everyone views quirks differently. Nothing about them is absolute, but if you keep rejecting everything, you're only going to cause yourself more pain. I'll leave the curry here. When the villains show up, he remembers telling Mandalay he knew where Koda was. He remembers running to his secret base, danger sense getting louder at every step. He remembers barely being able to snatch him away before a fist come crashing down. White hair, green eyes, freckles. Now you were on the list. A broken phone and no one knew where he was. Just him, Koda and a villain. He can't run, or he risks bringing that guy to the camp. It's going to be okay, Koda. I'm going to save you. The man laughs. I can't kill you. That doesn't mean I can't enjoy this. The man punches him and Izuku hits the mountain wall. By the way, where's the kid that has an explosion quirk? Bakugo or something? His breath fails him. Why are they after Kaken? Izuku. Take his quirk, quick dash. He was going to. It made sense to but. Water hose. My mom and dad. Did you torture them like this when you killed them? No. No, this can't be happening. What are the damn odds? Brats like you sure know how to pass the blame. I don't really hold a grudge against M about my eye. I killed, just like I wanted to. And a dash. He doesn't let him finish or take a step close to Koda. He heard enough. They all heard enough. He jumps, screaming, grabbing at the man and not letting go. He keeps punching him. Sidhu-san is telling which parts to pull away, and keeps biting the flesh off the man, trying to peel it away. Hopefully, a tendon will show up. Quick, take his quirk while. I won't. What? I refuse to have something that hurt Koda so badly. I won't. It may be stupid. It may cost him. But he won't. So while trying to maintain his balance, he uses the ultimate shield, stronger than he ever used. He's not even bothered that it is showing on his skin, that spikes are coming out of his hands. He aims another punch, this time to the man's face. Right in his scar. At the same time, he stumps at the man's neck. The windpipe. Good. He didn't think it would be that strong, because Koda is sent flying away towards the other way. Izuku. He runs to the edge wanting to catch him and BLACKWHIP. It's nice to know he can have access to another quirk, but unfortunately, he is in so much pain that he can't even keep it active for long enough. So he just bites Koda's shirt and hopes for the best. The best had to wait because the stupid mass murderer got up. Tell Koda to climb. He does, but they don't go to the camp. Still too risky, especially now that the guy is out for blood, making a game of trying to kill them. No. He needs to hold the man back. So he tells Koda to run and find someone. I won't move. He is exhausted, trembling, bleeding, but he doesn't move. Muscular is bigger than before, nearly crushing him, but he doesn't move. His breath became irregular, and he can't understand what the other man is rambling about. For some reason it is all so familiar. The weight on top of him, so suffocating, immobilizing you. If he closes his eyes, he can even picture the building blocks on top of him, the dust of the concrete filling his lungs the same time his ribs were breaking, and he was bleeding. It makes him remembers his death. No, not his. Daigoro-san's death. That he remember dying like that, despite never even happening to him, but is comforting. It means he doesn't need to be afraid. All he has time to think is apologize to his mother and All Might, but other than that, water. That is water. But where? Ah. Koda? Stop it. What was I thinking? You still have so much to live for. He does. He really does. So he won't die here. He refuses. As if we let you kill them. That wasn't just his voice. That wasn't his memory. But he doesn't have time to think about that now, and he can barely remember anything after that. The pain was too much. So he just repeats what they say. Ask for Koda to climb on. He can help to put out the fire. Keep smiling, that's it. You're doing great, kiddo. It is almost over. Look, there's your teacher. Go on, tell her Koda is safe, and who they are after, his actual name. Not Kaken. Go on, replay his message. Tell everyone in classes A and B that pro-hero Eraserhead says it's okay to fight back. They meet Shuji and Tokoyami, who lost control of Dark Shadow. Kaken, Todoroki, and later Azui and Uraraka. But then he lost it. He lost Kaken to some cheap Walmart version of a magician. Give him back now. That's a strange choice of words. Bakugo doesn't belong to anyone. He is his own person, you damn egotist. Get fucked, you asshole. You can't just take them. But that bitch still has the audacity to do so. He tells his classmate what to do. It felt way too good to hit that man and take him down. The second he got up and tried to walk, a dense mist portal appeared beneath him. He fell. Right into the waiting arms of Father. Sort of? Wait, no, that's not how I planned this dash. He passed out before listening the rest, but he did hear the distant scream of his uncle calling someone a motherfucker while Daigoro-san congratulates the other man on the accuracy. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. That was 3 days ago. He doesn't really feel like he will be able to talk. His tongue feels too heavy, and his head seems like it is full of cotton balls. Since then, he would wake up in pain, screaming and confused, trying to get away despite being tied to a hospital bed. He kept biting people without knowing who they were. They were in a dark place, with gigant's tubes of glass filled with. Their voices are so loud he can hear them screaming, trying to reach out for him, crying out. Don't look at them. Don't talk. Izuku is not safe. The man, he knew there was a man now, the man was always there. And it made Izuku's skin crawl with discomfort because of how comfortable he acted toward him, caressing his hair, talking about his mother. It was wrong, uncomfortable. Yet, despise his hazed mind, despise his confusion, it doesn't feels entirely wrong. It felt familiar despite everything. The older man would always bring food, always his favorite, always fresh and hot. He would always try to feed it to him, saying how his little ducky needed to restore his strength, and how this was for his own good. But something deep inside him always made sure he never took a bite, or if he was forced to, he spat it out. The man would only sign with an air of fondness, as if such this all ordeal was common. Just like your uncle. 你真烦人. Yes, honey, we know that. Oh, so that's who he is? Unfortunately. Guess that's one way to meet your father after a decade. Midline horizontal ellipsis, midline horizontal ellipsis. On other moments, Izuku would wake up and listen to his father talking non-stop. About his plans, his hopes and dreams for them. First, a Nomu just for you, how does that sound? The personal guard for you and Inko. Surely you need it. Look at the state of you. Doesn't Uday has recovery girl at their staff? Do you have any idea of how many healing quirks I had to use? He moans again. He's using Rohypnol again. God, what a cliché. And that man is still talking. About how hard it was to plan the entire kidnapping plans, of how both Muscular and Kachin needed to lean Alisan. The first one for the beating, the last one for the years of the bullying. Oh, and speaking of Kakin, the only reason why he was target was because dear father wanted to turn his dear old friend into a Nomu. As Alisan, a proper punishment for the boy for everything he done to Izuku in Aldera Junior High. Oh, speaking about punishing people, I still need to come up with an idea for a proper lesson for when Tamura met you at the mall. I don't care if he is a backup vessel for me, there is no excuse to put your life in danger. But really, what else can you expect for a Shimura? Huh. Must have misheard that. He had to. But in the back of his mind, he can feel Nana's confusion and dread rising, as well as her tears running down his face. The man starts stroking his hair. He wants to cry. He wants to scream, to run. But he can't run. And he is tired of crying. So he screams. It doesn't matter what, he just does it at the top of his lungs as loud as he can. His dear freaking daddy even gets startled at the mood change, just like the past holders. Even the Nomus are paying attention now, despite their confusion. He is trying so hard to speak. He can't. His throat hurts from the effort. Izuku, stop it. You dash. His father reaches out, but Izuku tries to escape it, going as far as using ultimate shield to not let the man touch him. It's a ripple effect after it. Rainbow sparks and lighting are running through his body, a multitude of feelings and memories flood his brain. Shinomori-sen quirks is quiet, but they all know how dangerous All for One is. They know how far he will go. Izuku remembers the taunting tone, the times he locked Uncle, he remembers. He remembers blood. A strange feeling of dread drops deep into his stomach, a bizarre, horrible, and familiar déjà vu. Black Whip got out of control and started smashing everything around them. The color was wrong, changing between red and white, acting as if alive, reaching and grabbing everything and everywhere. He finally finds his voice and lets everything out. Fuck you. Izuku. Are you shitting me? You selfish freaking bastard, don't touch me, you knew? You knew how I was treated at school and didn't do shit about it. You go out of your way to kidnap me when I'm attending hero school, but when people are using me for target practice for their quirks, so many times I develop a high pain tolerance, or when the teachers made me retake exams because they always assume I was cheating, you don't do anything about it. He can't stop screaming, yelling about things he never wanted people to know about it. The Nomus are screaming too, screeching the glass of their containers. People told it to my face that you left because I was quirkless. Being that was the same as not existing. If I got killed, no one besides him would care. The older man is obviously confused and trying to hold any sense of composure, so he starts lying. Or maybe he thinks he is telling the truth. It's hard to know if a pathologic liar. Izuku, stop. You know that's not true. He wants to leap forward and choke the man's neck. How dare he? How dare he say the things he lived aren't true, and Izuku can't tell if that desire is coming from him or from the holders. Still, some parts of Black Whip manage to grab him like ivy vines, expanding and holding into him. That genuinely seemed to surprise his father. More sparks are flying now, and Izuku is feeling. Yes, he is taking quirks from All for One. Talk about a taste of his own medicine. Izuku, stop this nonsense. Instead of answering, he focuses even more. He wants this to hurt. As much as it hurted him. You don't care. You never did. You could have my diagnosis in a matter of seconds, but you didn't. I cried myself to sleep because of you. Because I thought it was my fault you left. I wanted to die. Come now, Izuku is all in the past. You don't get to talk about the past. Where were you? No. You don't get that. Not after 10 years of nothing. Not after pretending you didn't had literal skeletons in the closet. Izuku. How long into you thrown me and him into a vault too? He is out of breath after that. They both are. His father is shaking, literally too shocked to even speak. And then a wall comes down.